right,
Sounds good to me.
At the Facilities Committee meeting November 3rd, 2014, present are Brian Doty, Tamara Twardowski, Larry Speed, Mike Wolf, Lauren Small, and Casey Blankenmiller. Thank you. And I will turn it over to Lauren.
All right, in our ongoing...
You got the squeaky chair.
Take care of this in our ongoing work on putting together a facility use form and the related cost, I've given you two things that were submitted to Mary Beth regarding the charges to some of the neighboring districts for youth group facilities, and also the Schuylkill Valley School District, very similar to what we're doing, to give you an idea of the charges. When Mary Beth gets back for perhaps the next meeting, we can go into more detail on this, but I just gave you a copy of it for your review, and we'll dig into this deeper at the next meeting.
Huh. So, only one school district in the area charges, huh?
So that's it? Schuylkill Valley is the only one?
So it seems.
Wow.
I know Muhlenberg's from first-hand experience. The only time we would ever have a possibility of being in charge is if we had to have a custodian on staff. But they just gave us keys and the security code to get into the gym on Sunday. The one year they came up with like a $5,900 for our basketball program. And that was when everybody was starting to charge fees 2 or 3 years ago, and they waived them. That was the only time they ever came up with any kind of fees. Just, you know, I can speak for Muhlenberg, we're just from firsthand, so they do not charge anything.
Well, I guess that would lead me to the question of, do we have somebody on staff for them when they access the building?
Not that I know of. I mean, there's custodians always here. It's a second shift, third shift, second shift at all schools, third shift at the high school and middle school on the weekends. I don't know that answer for sure.
Okay.
If we have somebody come in and cover for them.
Are we issuing keys to any organizations?
I found out that a security company has a key, but I'm sure other organizations have keys too. So
that's a decision we need to address. Do we want keys floating? Or do we want to have personnel here?
Right, and I guess if we do have keys floating, you know, can they only access the gym or the gym in the bathroom, or we don't want people obviously roaming around.
I don't believe so, because I don't think they have the pull down cages down at any point in time.
That's the other management end of it. If we have the ability to quarantine certain areas and lock it down, then but perhaps our best option is to have personnel on duty, and if we have to make a charge, sooner or later something's going to happen. The keys are going to get in the wrong hands, I would think.
Right.
The problem is once they get out there, it just seems to migrate, and you don't know who has them and who doesn't have them, and they don't get turned in. And
well, the keys are the card access for all the buildings. Some buildings key and some card.
The only ones that have card access are swipe cards at the high school front door, here, and the middle school, I think. I think there's very few places that have card access.
Because I'm almost okay, like if it was card access, it's not as big because you can shut that access off if
dismantle
or you make it set for only certain times and whatever. But yeah, so I guess that would be the next question in my mind is when we have the youth organizations here, whatever, do we have to bring somebody in? Do they have keys? If they do have keys, because if nobody's here and there's no cost to us, then maybe we don't charge. But if there's a cost to us, then maybe we need to look at it from that.
And that may be the only charge that you would have, would be, like Casey just said, if you've got a custodian there for the afternoon. And I don't know how much, without seeing her schedule, how many hours are involved on a weekend.
Goose would know that more than anybody.
probably need to have her at the next meeting.
And I'm trying to think. I mean, from wrestling, there really wasn't much on the weekend other than the couple tournaments they had, which I'm sure they probably have all-day access and pay for. I wasn't really involved with much else indoor sports, so.
There's a music, like the jazz festival, and they would have an indoor percussion guard competition. Those were always on the weekend. And I believe there were charges because Ron Heblow was one of the maintenance guys that were working just to take care of the bathrooms and so
Right.
forth.
And that's
we
what you
swept the
charge
halls, the volunteers swept the halls.
But that's a high school event, right? Or is that a younger? I mean, it was
It was related to activities that.
Correct, but at a high school level, like a Daniel Boone, it was a school
But
type.
other groups from other
Right.
communities would come in, so it's not just.
Right,
just
I see what you're
Daniel Boone,
saying.
it's-
That
and
would
they
be kind of
did
a
pay.
gray area.
But I'm just thinking if they have to pay, it would seem like you would have
Right, because they would
the
pay
youth
for.
organ, right?
They
Youth,
would pay for a custodian, and then they also had a kitchen person there, because they used the kitchen.
Right.
Even though that person volunteered their time, so they weren't technically charged for it, but if that person did, then they would be responsible for that also.
Well, I still think we need to, whoever it is, especially if it's an outside group, we should cover our expenses.
Right.
utilities.
Yeah.
And if we have to have a custodian there, we have to charge for that.
I agree.
and I do think that
Culture, though.
it's good to look and see what other schools are doing, but honestly, we're not other schools, and we have our own budget issues that are independent of, other
Yeah.
people's, and
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, responsible to taxpayers if we just overlooked it and said, yeah, it's free, because the taxpayers are on the hook to provide an education. This is extra stuff in my book.
Or did you get any idea from Schuylkill Valley how they came to this breakdown?
No, I didn't. This was just forwarded to me, so I brought it on over. And Mike and I have nearly completed our utilities deal.
I know I love like the $5 for 2 hours. Like maybe that is just the lighting. Maybe they're looking at it like that's the utility cost
not.
or something. But it'd be interesting to. All right, and
I can email Craig Strunk, the facilities director over there, just see.
All right.
If there was any rhyme or reason if they were to just pull numbers or whatever, I'd be curious.
and I'm sorry. You said you guys have almost completed your utilities.
Yeah, we're working
study?
on trying to come up with some numbers on the Amity Fields now. Got the buildings nailed down, but moving forward, before you know it, it'll be spring, and we wanted to get those numbers as close as we could.
That's true, and I think that aspect will be a little bit of a change because the school district hasn't been involved
Right.
with the scheduling of those fields, so it's probably better to have that out earlier than later.
That was our intent. All right, so we'll have that for December.
Okay. I do want to touch on the reserve study, but since that's probably our lengthiest thing, why don't we move that to the bottom and go
Okay.
over the other stuff, if that's okay, just to make
fine.
sure we get that stuff done? Okay.
Disposition of assets. Back to, we took care of the 2 trucks. They're going to be gone this week, right?
They're all, yeah. If all goes well, they'll be hauled off the scrapyard this week.
So they'll be gone. Back to the infamous bucket truck. Did we give you the detail of the chain of events with the bucket truck at the last meeting?
Just that apparently it got traded for a backhoe or something, and
Yeah,
we didn't have a title or the signed title, or
Well,
okay.
Detective Kent Casey here, he interviewed the parties involved. And it seems that Phil Kerr bought the bucket truck from Sellers Painting in Limerick, paid $1,000 for it, immediately brought it over here and traded it for the backhoe, took the backhoe home. And then everything stopped. And that was nearly 2 years ago from what we did.
2-3 years ago,
So no board action for anything, and then we realized we had this bucket truck. Casey's assessment was, we don't need the bucket truck. We might use it twice a year. At the very most, we'll lease a high lift, change our parking lot lights. We don't want the liability, we don't want the maintenance. So it was suggested to Phil, how about you give us $1,000 cash for the backhoe, since if you paid $1,000 for the truck and traded it for the backhoe, must be the backhoe was worth $1,000. Now, it's up to the board to decide if they think the backhoe is worth more than that. So I went out to Phil's property with Phil and took pictures of the backhoe so you knew for sure what you owned eventually. And that, barring any further direction from the board, is our plan.
And then he would take the bucket truck back?
We'd give him the title. We didn't pursue trying to get a value on it or how we would get the title notarized and all the rest. We'll simply hand him the title back. He'll have his bucket truck that he originally had that he paid $1,000 for. And we will dispose of the backhoe by board action the way we should have disposed of it 3 years ago.
I'm sure we did take us up in a meeting, because it was, I know, and I was on the facilities committee even then, and I know we discussed it, because
We can't.
Kenny told us about, hey, this is the deal that we're doing, we're going to exchange one for the other. He didn't, I don't remember that it was Phil that he traded with, but we did discuss it.
If we did, we can't find it.
You looked through all the agenda, it wasn't on the agenda.
And then we could not, the title was never transferred. So we don't own it. So
I think I'd rather have $1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
actually, that 300 Utility International is probably worth more without that aftermarket backhoe bucket attachment on it, but
Well,
nevertheless.
as I saw the bucket truck, the Miller harness that I donated to the district, I think was worth more than the bucket truck.
I wasn't aware of that, but this is what we have found moving forward, and that's where we're at. If the board wants to go a different direction,
How old's the backhoe?
1954 International. It's a classic.
I was
I was
going to
gonna
say,
say.
it might have value to it
might
for
be
the
worth
class
something.
again.
I know Phil has spent some money repacking cylinders, and he didn't offer to try to fire it off, but I know it needs one rear tire. That's why I'm sitting on tilt there.
I guess I'm okay with that. There should be some kind of record of it, and
Well, and I made an off-the-wall comment the other day. I don't know that we owned the backhoe.
we don't have.
Where did we ever get the backhoe from to start with? I don't know. There's no title, obviously, for a tractor, but
Is that an insured piece of equipment? No, so it's already
not
taken
since-
off.
It's been gone 3 years.
Okay, so it was taken off at that time.
Well, presumably, it's not on the schedule now. But
Okay.
none of the turf equipment is on the schedule. All that's on the schedule are the licensed vehicles and all licensed vehicles.
Okay.
Mr. Small, what about the old band that's at the high school?
We're researching that.
Because when we were building the football field, that had a license plate on it, because I towed it from the high school over to the middle school, and then I towed it back.
Now, is it the one that says Blazer?
It's the old, real blue one,
It's
real
the smaller one of the two that's
Okay.
behind the high school.
Let's
Like
verify. I took the schedule over one day to see try to identify serial numbers, and I wasn't sure which one was actually, there's one with a tag,
Yeah, the white one. The white one is the one that's used all the
and
time.
that's got advertising for the antique shop on it, I believe.
Yeah, that was purchased, well, way before my time, but that's the only one that they used. The only thing they used the blue one was for is storage, which I couldn't pull,
It's a storage shed right now, from what I understand.
It's a storage shed.
Wow.
Actually, if you look at the passenger side rear tire,
Right.
the tread is is off. I mean, really, they use it for storage, I just go ahead and put it up on blocks and put it someplace permanent as a shed.
Take the axles off of it and put it on some block and away you go.
Yeah, that's it, because it
Yeah.
is, I mean, it does, there's a lot of stuff in there that they keep that it can't get wet, and it does serve that purpose, but it should never move.
It's not roadworthy, huh?
I wouldn't, they don't use it.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't used it it hasn't gone anywhere in the 10 years that I've been helping out.
Wow.
So you might as well just, don't put any money into fixing tires or brakes or electric or anything, just put it up on a block and use it. It's being used as a storage, so
Right.
secure storage.
And that, the one you're referring to is the band boosters? It's the blue one?
It's the blue, the small
Okay.
blue.
Because I've got paperwork here on a Hallmark, but that looks like it's an 8-footer.
That's the Hallmark is the long white one
Is that
that's
got-
next to it.
Bill of sale and whatnot here on that. Okay. And then there's a low boy, heavier frame trailer over there,
Two smaller ones.
and 2 smaller ones. And Casey will get into some of this later with some plans he has, but our theory is, let's clean up that mess in that alcove around the buildings there. And if it has value in our auction, get rid of it or scrap it. But long-term, we want to buy a regular landscape trailer because we're planning to, rather than have all this inventory of turf equipment in every building, every location, we'll have a couple guys in the maintenance crew that will be our own landscaping crew, and they can travel. Cut down on a lot of our overhead there. The sheet that I just circulated is what we discussed at the last meeting. That is the current fleet. The only mileage we don't have is on that Ford F-150 that's over at Douglasville Auto Body or out on 422, because we're waiting to get a proposal. It won't pass inspection because of the condition of the body on it. And that was the F-150 Ford that was used for plowing, which never should have happened because it's just too light for snow plowing. And so the question remains, we get it fixed, we get it inspected, we can replace one of the on down. I tried to put that in newest to oldest, so you can see we've got 2 pickups that are 92 and an 88 that are just kind of bumping up and down the road, 73 and 81,000. Curious thing, our newest vehicle got 120,000 miles on it. That's the Chevy van that the mail guys use. So Casey has a plan in place of how he'd like to shuffle things around, both manpower and vehicle, and possibly we won't need all of these vehicles, this number of vehicles anyway. So you want to jump into that, Casey?
What's kind of odd with the school district is you have grounds guys that report to the same school, meaning that we had 2 grounds guys that go to the high school, 2 guys that go to the middle school, and then our 2 other grounds guys kind of float between the elementaries and here and mow and do odds and ends. Therefore, we have equipment in every single building. We have 6 of the exact same mowers, the big 6-foot front deck, 4-wheel drive, John Deere tractors. There's 6 of them. You know, you're only mowing with 2 or 3 at a time. Having a landscaping crew, more or less, take those 6 guys, 4 guys on the mowing crew, and set a truck and a trailer up with mowers, weed eaters, and stuff like that we can go from building to building to building and knock this stuff out. But it does require the proper trailer, the proper mowers, and stuff like that. So it's definitely a longer term trying to figure out what the value of our equipment is now. Because then I can have somebody just do field prep. Like right now, there's 4 lawn tractors between the 4 schools that have fields. And actually, the high school and the middle school, there's 4 lawn tractors that they use to drag infields. There again, 4 more pieces of equipment that we have to maintain. One of them's junk. One's right now is kind of torn apart and in pieces in the middle school. But I could have one guy do nothing but field prep. Actually have a real field grooming machine. Right now they drag the fields with angle iron with more or less spikes in it. An angle iron frame with spikes in it. It takes them twice as long to do it. It doesn't do the job as well as a normal good field groom machine would do, because it doesn't have the bar in the back to level low spots. It takes probably 2.5 to 3 times longer to do it with a normal tractor and a drag than a field groom machine. Because I mean, once you do the field groom machine, you're done. You know, now they got to spike it, then switch to a piece of chain link fence or whatever. So they're doing it 2, 3, 4 times. So looking at all that, there's definite ways to use the staff better, but it also requires some expense of equipment. So Laura and I were just talking about trying to just get proposals together, see what the equipment costs are, and trying to figure out what value of the stuff that we have that we still need to keep, because they use the big 4-wheel drive tractors for snow removal as well. So they have snow blowers to the front of them, they have brushes for the front of them. Is it a necessity to have that type of equipment to do sidewalks? You know, you can probably be just as effective on a sidewalk with a guy with a nice 3-foot wide snow blower. You know, so there's some things I need to look at, but you know, we're trying to, between Laura and I, we're trying to figure out the best avenue with what, you know, the financial constraints are of the school district as well, you know, to see what makes the most sense.
What's your idea to sell off some of this excess equipment?
Possibly.
If you get this grooming machine or whatever?
Yep. Yep.
Say it would,
I didn't print out the list, but it's
extensive.
We have 6 of the mowers. We have 2 John Deere front-end loaders at the high school, a large one and a small one, and we have a small one at the middle school. Right there, I mean, for how often they only use those to move a little bit of dirt, why do we need 3 of the same type of pieces of equipment? I mean, I was at Wilson, we had 1, you know, for twice as many buildings, and it sat half the time as well. You know, we have the trailer to move it, so it wouldn't take much to move it from place to place. The other thought of it is to take the middle school and make that into my grounds shop, the basement over there, and take the garage at the high school and make that into a maintenance shop. Because right now it's kind of a little bit of both. Right now, if I need to talk to the guys, I got to try to track everybody down. You know, this way I can get them all to more or less report to the middle school. They can go from there. I have the place underneath to store everything. It's already made for storage. We could actually set that place up to be a shop. Right now, it's kind of. What's that?
That sounds reasonable to me.
You know, so it's, and I think that's going to happen anyway. I'll end up making that a shop for servicing the equipment. You know, if we don't go and we don't, you know, with the expense of the equipment and everything, we don't get it done the first year. It's not the end of the world. You know, we've done fine the way we've been doing it. But I need to get that shop set up the right way. Keep certain things on hand, spare parts, you know, since we all have the same type of mowers and stuff. So just to kind of throw it out there, food for thought as we start coming to you with meetings like, hey, you know, here's what we're thinking. At least you understand where we're going with it.
What do these guys, the groundskeepers, do when they're not mowing the lawn in the summertime and they're not plowing snow in the winter?
I don't know.
We're going to find out.
I know what they're going to be doing
Parent
this winter.
equipment. Maybe.
Ball fields.
I know what they're going to be
Besides
doing
ball
this winter.
fields.
With this winter, we're going to be cleaning out all the areas with storage, especially the 3rd floor here. You know, all these classrooms upstairs have desks and chairs and stuff like that. So we're going to do a full inventory of what's upstairs. What's good, what's bad, what's not good. We're going to clean out the basement of AEC. That has just a ton of stuff in it. Birdsboro has a bunch of stuff in it. So, you know, we're going to go from school to school to school, and we're going to start going through some things. I mean, if you walk in the classrooms at AEC, there's 25 desks in a classroom, and there's 6 different styles desks. You know, they're like different height by an inch or 2. Some have the tops that are all banged up. You know, we have probably 300 desks here that are all the same. So why not go and empty a class? You know, talk to the teacher and say, hey, can we come in, you know, at night? Can you have the kids take their personal effects out, come in, get 30 good desks, swap that room out, assess what that room has, start to rotate the good stuff through and keep what we have for parts and for spares. So I know we're going to be doing that this year. Painting, I'm going to have them do painting in a lot of the areas that just need some touch-up work and stuff like that. They were all custodians at one point in time, so I'm going to have them also do some finer cleaning of some of the schools that they just don't get to, that kind of stuff. So they already know they're going to be busy. The word's gone around in the shop. They're going to be busy, so there's always something to do.
We have grounds crew maintenance guys?
There's 6 grounds guys, 4 maintenance guys, and then I think it's like 30 custodians.
Okay.
Roughly.
36 and 4.
Okay.
So it is.
So now, are the maintenance and the ground crew, do they kind of do both things, or are they like these guys only do this and those guys only do that, or?
Right now, Glenn, Phil, and Phil are my 3 maintenance guys that travel all the schools. Glenn's kind of your jack of all trades, and he fills in for custodians. Phil Kerr, jack of all trades, fills in for custodians as needed. Hasn't, since I've been here, hasn't had to. And then Phil Trasser's the locksmith, carpenter, sidewalk repairman, just kind of repairs everything. And then Mike Galla reports to the middle school every day, which going down the road is the one thing I'm going to kind of get him to have a responsibility, because he goes there every day and he's more or less a helper to the head custodian a lot of times. No offense, I don't need a maintenance guy being a glorified custodian when there's other things that can be done in the schools. He's the type of person, though, you get him going too many different directions, he gets very confused and very out of sorts. So if I can get him to be more or less my ballast changer for my lights, bulb changer, and take that responsibility away from the head custodians, then the head custodians can really concentrate on keeping their buildings clean for the kids and that kind of stuff. And that's something Mike can do very well. That's what he does pretty well now. So there again, there's a truck that I would have to kind of outfit for him to travel from school to school to school. Grounds guys, like I said, you have Mick and Doug that report to the middle school. Greg Rappert goes to the high school. Now Eric Wagner used to go to the high school, but he's now the head custodian at Birdsboro. So now we put the grounds position is open, and I hope hopefully we'll be filling that then next week. And then you have Mike Marino does kind of the shrubs and trimming trees and mowing and stuff like that, and Harry Amol does mowing, and those are the 2 guys that kind of float between the 2 elementaries. But then they also fill in for the custodians as the head custodians are out.
Okay.
Now, who did you say you were going to backfill? What position?
There's a grounds position that's open.
There
Because
is?
Eric Wagner left grounds to go to Birdsboro Elementary as the head custodian. So while that position was open, there were 4 custodians over there kind of rotating through the duties over there. So now that Eric is there, we have a custodian who's out second shift at Monocacy for a foot operation. So I moved the 1 person from Birdsboro, who was working second shift there, over to Monocacy to fill in for that position. So that's hiring a 10th one. I would have 5 custodians on elementary school, but I don't need.
You need the backfill? You need the backfill?
The grounds, yeah. We'll need to fill that, because you're gonna. It's the worst time of the year here in any school is spring. Baseball fields, softball fields. It's just when you're running a lot of games through, you got to fill. If you got to do 4 fields, it's going to take 2 guys 4 to 5 hours just to do the fields. So you're doing them pretty much almost every day, depending on games and practices and whatnot. So I don't know how fussy the coaches are here. I know at Wilson they had to be perfect for practice. So we had 2 guys. That's all they did every day. Were just fields over there. So and that's something as we start getting into that point. Part of it too is with the mowing crew, if we don't have the bigger equipment to mow more acreage in a short amount of time, we're gonna need that staff. So it's, do we fill the position, or do we buy a mower that can mow a 15-foot path in the grass? So we're not making 3 passes with the tractor, we can make 1 pass with the tractor. So that's,
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, you invest in the tractor once, and you pay an employee every year
Yeah.
with benefits and retirement.
So have you fleshed out this plan of consolidating equipment so that you can,
it's
like,
here. It's in my head yet. I really haven't sat down and put it on a piece of paper per se.
do you think that there's staff that you could eliminate or not fill position? What's the PC way to say this?
not fill position.
Yeah. With your plan, would you be able to do it with less staff?
I would need equipment then.
Well, okay.
So that, the cost you have with the staff.
Well, to Mike's point, why don't you, put something together that will
Yeah.
show that,
Yeah.
the give and the take.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's just,
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see what we have here with the vehicle schedule, the same thing, basically.
We're tracking it down. In fact,
I'm sure it's a task.
he sent me one today, and I hadn't even mentioned this to him. There's a couple pieces in the basement of the transition house that you don't have on your list.
See?
We'll get there eventually.
It's just yet another
One's a big
study.
post hole digger,
Yeah.
and the other's an air compressor that they use for miscellaneous things. But we're trying to get everything on the list. And back to his point about the bunker rake grooming machine for the fields, I mean, that's absurd to have all those cheap little lawn tractors. We got a white, which is nothing but a Lowe's special or somebody. And then there's an old Cub Cadet and, what did I say, something else.
Like in
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
And what happens too when you're dragging them with that type of piece of equipment, your dirt starts to get pushed out to the edges. So now you start getting the lips.
I've heard that complaint about our fields.
What's that?
I've heard that complaint about our fields, that they're
And
not
it
groomed real well,
with-
especially the middle school one
With a
too.
normal field prep, an infill machine, that amount of dirt pushed out is almost none. So you lengthen the life of your infield as well.
Okay.
And
it
we
keeps
already,
the dirt where you want it.
we already own the aerator, which is
Correct.
companion piece to the bunker rake. So we're on our way there. But back to our discussion a couple of meetings ago about just assets in general or surplus stuff to get rid of. By spring, we should have a handle on some of the stuff, and we'll put all this stuff in our auction and silent auction, whatever we do, and get rid of it and raise some cash.
I think that's a great goal, especially for the winter, to try to get through all that stuff, because, I mean, I can only imagine it's 20 times worse than your house, but I gets to say when you move, you find all this stuff that you're like, what? In the attic, in the basement, we're like, where did this come from? How has it
Also
been
have
here?
the custodians looking at their equipment and trying to do an inventory of what they're using, what they're not using, and where it all is. Because I know there's floor scrub machines here that aren't used.
Wow.
So, why are they here? Could they serve a purpose at another school? So, and that's just,
management.
Okay.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys are doing it.
So we're still in the information gathering stage at this point with that.
Looks like it.
I would
For the
say.
most part. However, back to our last meeting, we were discussing the mileage and condition and whatnot of equipment. And Casey moved forward and came up with state contract pricing on a replacement truck and plow, because this one that's not inspectable now was being used as a plow, and part of the reason it's not inspectable is the abuse that it took. And what we're recommending is that we acquire a new four-wheel drive 3/4 ton with a plow, basically to replace that, but that would be kind of the lead machine of the fleet. But we would obtain it through state contract pricing. We've got half a dozen different prices,
What's your best number so far?
not to exceed $37,000 with plow, light bar, everything.
What is that? I don't know what the 3/4, like in the terms of the fours, is that like 550, 450, 350?
350.
350.
four-wheel drive F-350, 8-foot bed,
Is it a dually?
Rhino line.
Single.
Okay.
Yeah, just a normal axle,
Okay.
no dual wheel. That's Rhino line bed, up and over the rails as well.
Yep.
So you don't destroy the paint and that
Yep.
rots out, it looks like,
Stainless steel V blade instead of
Yeah.
the straight blade.
The V plow will be stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about the corrosion.
Is it adjustable or?
Yeah, it's a V plow, so you can, when you do, like, I can't believe they've plowed parking lots here with straight blades, because you can't push snow forward. All you can do is push it to the side.
Yeah.
At least the V plow, I can scoop it, I can put them like this, and I can actually push and stack snow.
Okay.
It's
Oh, and like lift it when you
Yeah.
get to the end. Okay.
yeah. How they've plowed all these years with straight blades is beyond me, to be honest with you. When you're
It's
doing-
abusive on a vehicle.
Yeah.
It goes to show that buying the wrong piece of equipment has more of a cost than
Right.
buying the right piece in the
And
beginning.
this truck will have heated side mirrors, so you're not standing there trying to scrape ice off your side mirrors all the time. It's the only frills it's going to have. I mean, it's a work truck, but it's going to have heated mirrors on the side because of plowing. It's just.
Where'd you
it's
get
an
quotes
absolute
from?
pain.
Are they all around here? Or?
But, well, then my only question is, are you comfortable that the 350 is heavy enough? Because honestly, I'd rather spend, if we need to spend another 5 or 10 grand and go to the next level, I'd rather do that than,
They have to be on a state contract because we can't go out to
Yeah.
bid.
I'm a Chevy
Well,
guy,
we don't want to.
but Chevy doesn't make a good plow truck.
No.
Ford does.
So
I
if
mean,
it's-
an F-350,
check
I
with
can
them.
push
If
snow all
I
day
said
long
if
with
they're
that thing
on
on.
state
It won't
contract,
hurt at all.
Let us know.
can I be
What was
like,
the
get
absolute
that number?
Well,
It's
that
30.
includes the plow, which is.
Oh, yeah.
He has all the numbers.
37, I think you said.
Co-Stars, I think retail was like 34,000, with
Okay.
Co-Stars was like
The
13,000
truck
or
itself,
11,000 we
state
got off for state,
on all of
the
them.
state rebate.
You think
I
you're
brought
set
truck
on getting the
down to
plow from those guys,
35,
right?
30,
Like,
I mean,
We'd like
25,
to,
26,000,
unless they
and
can
then
be
the plows another
competitive because it's
7,
close for service.
and then the Rhino line and the
There's,
light bar on the
Tempo.
top, which you need to have with
This is
plowing.
Penske
So
and
some
Shillington.
moron
This is GM
resident
products
comes
here.
flying through the parking
We got
lot,
a
you
whole
back
bunch of
into them
those.
and you hit them,
Those
it's
are the
on them
three
if
that
you have the
we're
light
at.
bar flash.
These are like the
If you
three
have the yellow
better
lights
ones.
on,
Well, we're
it's on them if you
pick
hit
and choose.
somebody.
Typically,
If
they're
they're
quotes
moving.
of something they had.
Right.
If they're parked, it's on you,
But they could order.
Well,
it.
it's not really on you. It's the
Think about Bergen's,
deductible.
they do a lot of.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Okay.
You learned that the hard way.
Perfect
And
experience with you.
I call them printers.
Oh, okay. Have them call us.
Yeah, I will.
Lauren, what was the best price so far on this truck?
Let's see here.
37.1?
The Ford from New Holland Ford came in at, to the last page here, 25,318 with the Co-Stars discount off. That dropped it from 37 to 12,607 Co-Stars discount.
Can you have a
25?
package at home now?
Yeah.
Class 3 as a whole.
25,318 was the truck itself, right?
Oversized
And it was a Ford F-350, right?
Cooler, oversized alternator for all the.
And
We didn't get all
then
those.
And then the
bells
plow
whistles,
was like
we're not
80
gonna
or
be going
something?
heavy with it.
plow package
The
is
radiator is on the F-350s are harder to start with, because,
with
it has
everything,
the,
with
it
the
has the
Rhino
plow
liner in the bed.
package.
Oh, and they were doing that too, right?
Light bar,
Yeah,
stainless
yeah,
steel blade,
whatever.
Okay.
I forget what all the
Was,
details are of the plow package.
7,800.
7,800.
Can you lease these?
You can, we could investigate leasing them.
Because the
Typically, you don't-
mileage is good.
Typically, you don't get as good a price on a lease deal.
See, I don't, it's the lease for, like, the schools, like, the lease, like, the municipal leases, it's
Should
a
be the
lease,
same.
it's a buyout. It's not, you lease it, but you're not really leasing it. It's that you own it for
a
a
dollar
dollar
out
at the
lease.
end, kind of thing.
So you're better off financing it. So it's not like a fair market value lease where you can
You'd
go,
have to
here's
get
the
the
keys,
details.
have it back.
No, it's more like a finance, it's more like you're financing to buy it.
I believe you don't get the great discount with it either.
That's the key.
I think
sure
the
you don't.
discount's like
Co-Stars is a cash deal.
20% of what that
Yeah.
discount
That's
is.
usually the situation.
And that was off the Co-Stars contract? Okay.
And that's actually, they have 2 of them in stock at New Holland now. Manderbach, I think, was 8 weeks out for delivery. Phelps was 6 to 8 weeks out on delivery for GMCs. I mean, like I said, I priced a whole bunch of them up.
What is? Are you trying to get this done before wintertime? Is that there's a sense of urgency?
Yeah, especially since we're down one truck because of the one that isn't inspectable, but we prefer not to use that anyway. But here again, yes, we need to purchase it now, but we would sell, obviously we'd roll at least one of the old ones out. Maybe we could get $500 a piece for those. We're going to have a straight plow. We could, if we're going to keep the Ford, that's got a plow frame under it. The 150, it's got a plow frame that goes with one of the straight plows over in the barn. Or you could strip the frame off and sell that plow. If you're going to keep the Ford just for a general purpose truck. We're not going to plow with it, we know that. But the question is, do we want to pay $1,000 or more for the work that's got to be done to the body to get it usable again? But we know we're never going to plow stuff.
It's down in Douglasville.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they've been so busy with hail damage that they can't get at even giving us a
The
price.
body mount going
I
across
can
the
fix
path is
that.
actually rough.
I know Tony. I'll call Tony down there.
We're getting geared,
So
okay?
what's your alternative if you can't get the truck?
The contractor's gonna have to plow more.
I was gonna say, how much do we plow with? Because we only have what, three trucks to plow?
Well,
They plow.
they contract
I understand they
with
plow
high school.
Monocacy with our trucks and the middle school,
We plow everything.
and a little bit at the high school.
Yeah, they do some cleanup at the high school. The bulk of the plowing.
There's the one girl I was told does AEC in here from the.
From Bear.
Yeah, from Bear. And then I believe we do the middle school and a little bit of the high school and Monocacy.
Do you know what our costs are with the contractor? Just this past year, I'm sure it's up.
I don't have that with me. I had it, I got the file over and get that.
So Lauren, we're talking about 25,000 in change for, well, plus the things you want to add to it,
Plus the plow, takes you up to the 37.
37. Now, do we have money that Ken always had, like this secret fund or the fund that he used when he took scrap and it got scrapped, like when he scrapped the boilers, that we got funds from the scrap metal that he would set aside for projects like this or other things?
The closest thing we have is what do they call it? The Converge Energy Curtailment Program savings was being funneled into the Capital Reserve Fund. But the Capital Reserve Fund was depleted with the boiler project and the portable boiler. However, with board approval, the way I have directed the auditors to end the year, we ended the year better than we anticipated. And I would prefer not to show an unassigned fund balance of substance because of certain negotiations that we've got coming.
Right.
So my recommendation is that we transfer money into capital reserve and debt service fund, establish a debt service fund, because the debt service fund can always be used for $7 million worth of debt.
Yeah.
So I can generate funds to make
All right.
a purchase like this.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my question was, do you have somewhere to take it from?
Yeah.
that won't affect
Okay.
the budget?
No,
Yeah,
For
which
this
one
year.
of the cookie jars that we have that we can
Well,
reach into?
that's the thing. The closest thing to a cookie jar that I'm aware of is the capital reserve fund that was funded by what Mr. Wolf just mentioned. The only thing that has gone into that in the 6 months I've been here has been the checks that I received from the Converge, but that pretty much was depleted with the boiler project. So, but moving forward, we could have some money in capital fund, and I could
All right.
move money around from debt service into the equipment fund to make it happen.
Well, I would still like to see what are we paying this contractor?
Okay.
You know what, that's still a lot of money for a district that's in real
Okay.
tough financial shape.
I'll,
For snow removal, that's what we're doing to supplement because this equipment is so poor. Is that the?
well,
Well, equipment and
They
manpower.
never plowed themselves here, which I don't quite understand either.
So we have, well, 3, right? 3 that are used
Yeah.
for plowing.
there were 3, yeah.
So Bear does all the plowing of the big lots and the salting of all the lots.
Are you saying with this piece of this new truck, we'd be able to do it on our own, or
No.
No.
This will be-
Just replace one.
Yeah, this will just replace what they were
So
doing.
we'd still
I'm
need.
just saying Bear would
They'd
have to
still
do
need
more
Bear to
if we
plow
didn't
salt.
replace this.
Well, right.
Bear trucking.
Yeah, they're over here on,
Limestone Road.
yeah, Rut scoots up
Yeah.
from 422 up
Yeah.
to,
Bear, I know, they're down there off
Now,
of,
moving
it's Lime
forward, just to
Kiln.
kind of give you guys a heads up, we do have a stainless steel slide-in salt spreader that goes in the back of a truck
Mm-hmm.
that they don't use.
they haven't
Because
used
there
for
again, we
years.
don't have bulk salt anywhere in storage
Right.
to fill it. So that's one thing that I'm gonna work this winter to try to figure out where we can and what truck we may be able to put that in for next year, to help alleviate some of the expense with the hauling company.
So that would mean we'd have to build
Have a
a,
salt
Another
bin.
truck for the fleet.
Yeah.
So it's, it's,
When you're like a tail off, you know,
yeah, that spreader
it's
is,
mission creep there.
that's been sitting, I don't know how long Phil Kerr's been here, but he said it's never been used since he's been here, but it's a nice stainless
That's a
steel spreader.
$5,000 spreader, because I bought one for Wilson the last year I was there. Yeah. It's all stainless steel.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
this isn't just a
They're-
hook it over the tailgate type, this is a slide-in stainless
Sits in the
steel.
bed. Yeah. Wow. What are they using now? Like push spreaders?
They're not using
Well,
anything because we don't have
sidewalk,
salt, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the salt.
Well, would it get bag salt or something?
By the skid.
Yeah,
Ugh.
They buy 4 or 5
Rock salt,
skids a
70
year
pounders.
from Weavers. Because believe it or not, the Weavers Ace Hardware up in Lyons, is actually the cheapest place to buy it from,
Huh.
believe it or not.
That's interesting.
all right, so you'd like us to get specific numbers on what we've been paying for snow plowing,
Yeah.
okay?
And maybe you can give us the comparison, like maybe the last 2 or 3 years, so,
Yeah, 'cause we know
because
last
obviously
year was
last year was gonna be high.
Yeah, that's an anomaly. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Let's see, we're all hoping it is,
What are you
but,
predicting? Or not predicting?
well, I'm predicting I rebuilt the carburetor on my snow blower and I bought 4-wheel drive, so I'm predicting no snow for the winter, but.
Yeah.
It's like the Halloween candy did.
But we'll see how that works.
Well, just to offset, I haven't prepared at all, so,
Okay, great.
so we'll get plenty of stuff.
I'm just praying.
Okay, so we'll place, or we'll report on Monday night that we're disposing of the backhoe.
Right.
The one that the gentleman, that was the bucket truck deal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In exchange for $1,000? Okay.
Just our motion will be to dispose of a backhoe for $1,000.
Okay.
But the rest is,
We'll just, yeah,
we're just kind of reversing what happened, but,
okay.
Put it towards the truck.
right. Okay.
All right, yeah. It would be interesting it'll be interesting to see what you think manpower-wise we can save with the right equipment. But I mean, I know that's not something you do in a couple weeks, but that will be interesting to see how that could play out and what we could trade in all this. Because you said we have tractors that they do the sidewalks and stuff with,
Yeah,
like
they
the
have
big,
a
like
brush and a snow blower in the front of
like
them.
road mowing type tractors?
No,
No, not that big. Okay,
big mowers.
okay.
They run a 72-inch mower deck, take the deck off, put a blower or a broom on the same machine. And they're, must be 27-horse diesels, aren't they?
Yeah,
Well, I was wondering like what something like that runs, like cost-wise. But what do you think something like that costs?
he
The
would
the
wanna know.
mower itself from John Deere.
Yeah, just the mower.
You're looking at 23,000.
Okay, all right, that's what I was
And you
thinking,
right
so,
now own five.
right, so if you had a $4,000 snow blower, you'd be better.
A lot easier to replace.
You'd probably be a lot better, I mean, I don't know that that's what they call it, but I'm sure if you get a really big snow blower. Okay, well,
Is there a receptiveness to dramatically changing how this crew does things?
They're apprehensive.
Yeah.
Because they've never done it.
Right.
right,
And it's change. It's the unknown of change, because I mentioned it to one guy and it spread like a bad disease,
Yeah.
through all the guys, and they're all paranoid that, this guy's gonna be on a weed eater 8 hours a day for the next summer. I'm like, no guys, the whole point is to rotate people through every week so they know every single role of the grounds crew.
Yeah.
At every single school.
And to be efficient.
And to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
So,
It sounds like now they're kind of set in their ways and
well, and
Yeah, it
nothing against
happens.
the two guys in the middle school, but they mow the middle school every day. They're there every day. They know how long it takes to mow the middle school grounds. And not that I'm saying they stretch things out, but
Sure they do.
They know.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
They know. So that's just
they cut every day.
almost every day they're on a mower.
it's a
Yeah.
lot, I mean, it's a lot of,
There's a lot, yeah.
What I call the front yard up there, Christ, you put 3 football fields in that thing. It's
Yeah.
rubbish.
Yeah.
right, and if you got a little Z-mower, it's like 6 foot across, right,
And the analogy would be doing it with a push mower.
And they're cutting as slow as they can.
Okay, well, from what I said, I think it's a good idea.
No, I do too,
Yeah.
I do
We just
too.
gotta put it down on a piece of paper and make sure it works.
And honestly, I don't necessarily. I think probably too the fear is that somebody's going to be without a job, or But I think there's enough work. There's always so much more to do that you might not be laying people off, but it maybe through attrition as people go, you may not need to replace them.
Right.
But there's constantly more and more and more to do. So the more efficient you get at it,
And just for example, when I was at Wilson, I had 7 grounds guys. 4 guys were on the mowing crew. Now, one of the mowers was a John Deere that had 3 6-foot decks.
Jeez.
It did a 15-foot swath, and it did the big open areas. But it took those 4 guys going around to every building once a week, and that's what it took them, and they were hustling. It wasn't they weren't. And then I also had. I said 2 guys doing fields, and then I had the 1 guy that would float around, but usually I had 1 guy that was off somewhere, on vacation or personal days or whatever, so pretty much with 5 or 6 guys, I took care of 17 athletic fields, plus the grounds of 11 schools, 11 facilities. So it can be done.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting the guys in that right frame of mind.
right?
So.
Okay. All right.
What's next?
Boiler. maybe?
BEC boiler, Casey?
Long story short, they're running, they're correct, except for the controls. There's some issues with the train controls and the boiler controls. The way they had it set up, they were fighting each other a little bit. We have heat, we're operational, everything's working finally. We ended up having UGI come out last Tuesday to pull the meter and change the gas pressure going into the building. So now it's 2 pounds going into the building, and then we're knocking it down to a half a pound to the boilers. That was trial 3. And we can thank Sandy Schlegel from UGI for pulling a lot of strings for us. I called her on the Monday before, and we were on the schedule for the following Tuesday because she knew it was a school. It was warm. It was that warm day. I've known the lady for a good 15 years. And I said, Sandy, I'm just looking, if you're telling me Thanksgiving, Christmas vacation, that's fine. I mean, I could run on one for now. She goes, no, let me see what I can do. So she talked to the departments, and I called her after the fact, and I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Train was down. I had a conversation with their technician on site. We started bouncing things off of each other about how the system was working. He relayed our conversation to the powers that be. That gentleman was in on Friday, right? Thursday, Friday last week? Friday. I had him in the conference room here for an hour and a half. Kind of beating him up a little bit. Like,
Is that regarding the contracts or?
No, that's just that job itself.
That job, okay.
Just more or less how disappointed I was that you guys could be screwing around with this for 6 months, and here I am, not cashing favors in, but thank God Sandy Schlegel was the person she is and bailed us out.
Right.
Because if she wouldn't have done that, we would only be able to run one at a time.
That was my question. I was just going to back up because I missed something.
Yeah,
What precipitated all this?
Right.
The boilers
Didn't
are
name
high
the
efficient. The boilers are very high efficiency, so
Right.
they require a certain constant gas pressure coming in.
Okay.
What was happening was when they would both run, the gas pressure feeding them would drop.
Okay.
Because the line size wasn't large enough with the pressure that was in the line size.
That makes sense. Okay.
So the first attempt with Train was when they installed it, they fired them, didn't work, said, uh-oh, we need more gas pressure. So they went back, bought a new gas regulator, did some pipe changes and stuff like that, said, we're fine. This was my first week here, I think it was. They fire them up. I'm in a conference in Hershey when they were here. Fire them up, they both ran. Once they go over 50% capacity, boom, they went out. They both went out because the gas pressure dropped again below operating capacity. So they, of course, start, oh my God. I get a phone call, hey, these can't run. I said, can I run one?
So they pushed the fan.
I said, just get me one for each. So they had the other one disabled through the Train system. And then, so then what we had to do was, we had a half a pound of gas coming in before. Well, now we have 2 pounds coming in, and now everything is sized correctly based on length of run and everything.
So your conversation with them was, why the hell didn't you guys know?
Why didn't they figure this right?
Yeah.
Engineering
Really.
is part of part of your scope.
Right.
Well, I mean, when I did a boiler job, the 2 things you check are your fuel supply and your electric, because that determines what you're buying.
So what the guys?
Right.
Well, we missed it. Well,
Well, we know that.
they
Yeah.
paid all the costs.
Hi, Captain Obvious.
It's on them. It's on them. The controls now.
Duh.
The way these boilers work is they're so high efficiency, they have factory engineering in them, controls and stuff like that. Well, what happened was Train was trying to do their thing, and these boilers are trying to do their thing, and those 2 things weren't getting along very well.
Jesus,
So-
this building is snake big. Bless him.
So I more or less said, here's what you're gonna do. We're gonna just get them running. We're gonna leave them stand alone, that your system's not controlling them. Just let the boilers do their thing, make hot water, and just let the pumps run and circulate the hot water. Don't try to, right now, we're not saving energy. Right now, we're making sure they're running.
And there's heat.
I'm not
yeah.
freezing, I have heat.
Right.
They're going back with their engineering staff to look at everything. They're going to talk to the factory guy, the factory rep people, bring them in. So hopefully that happens next week or the following week. But I made it very clear that I'm not real happy.
Good. Good.
I said, a guy coming from the boiler business, like I 23 years, you can't.
It's a basic.
And then their project manager has the gall to tell me, I'm a chiller guy, I'm not a guy that does boilers. And I was ready to strangle him right then and there, thinking I just. So anyway, but we're running, we're good. We have heat.
That's it, we just get the lowest competitive bidder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
They weren't a
but that's-
competitive bidder.
So we're running.
No, yeah, that was off. That was off
We're
CoStarz
okay,
too.
but we're not where it
It's a
needs to be.
state contract.
I don't care if
It's
this
not
is,
like, they have to work out
Yeah, it's
whatever the
not like we're-
algorithm is between the train.
Yeah.
That was the deal where that's who Kenny felt
Yeah, we're
comfortable
not
with.
taking $20 bills.
That
and
was the
throwing
deal
them
where
on
that's
fire
who
and
Ken
burn
felt
them,
comfortable
but we're
with,
not
correct?
saving like we should.
Okay.
No, not even that far.
Buddy of his.
Place has heat.
Right.
yeah, he'll get into that deeper. But
So,
this individual that Casey met with last week doesn't come in my office.
No.
I had my showdown with him in July.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. and
Is
he-
that over the parts
Oh,
and
the
stuff?
piping?
No, it was
Oh.
over how the original deal was
The
put together.
contract.
Oh,
Which, to your point, it was never bid. There was never anything until I dug into it and finally put together a purchase order. And let's just say we got the job done, but
Well, I don't want to go into anything that could be considered personnel or executive, but before you guys came, I thought we did that stuff. But anyway,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
we can have that discussion
that's
later.
another story. But related to the VEC project, to follow up on last
Yes.
meeting with the portable boilers, per your direction, I sent a letter.
And Mike wasn't here, I don't think, last meeting, so
That's for the next.
just so he's aware, Mike, apparently, when they took the temporary boilers,
Thanks.
or when they installed them, we got built, actually, maybe can you just give a brief overview, because I don't think it's,
The temporary boilers, or temporary boiler, was brought in early March. Here again, I can't find board action approving that. I find where a discussion was made that it was going to cost X number of dollars per month to have that portable boiler here.
We approved that.
But on
We
top
might
of the cost
ratify
of the
it.
portable boiler,
not approved it.
there was installation cost in the amount of $33,000. $16,000 in materials, $17,000 in labor. The contractor that did the job back in early September contacted the superintendent and said that he would like to purchase some of the 4-inch connector hose that was used to connect the portable boiler into the boiler room to our headers, and wanted to pay us $3 a foot for 200 feet, I believe it was.
What do we pay for?
Yeah, good question.
Bingo.
Sorry.
I immediately,
Thunder.
I was at a meeting, off campus. I came back and immediately asked to see the invoice, and I finally found the invoice. We paid 12 something a foot for this. We paid $12 a foot for 300 feet, but he only wanted to purchase,
200 feet.
he only wanted to pay 200 feet at $3 a foot.
And like 100 feet of it was never even used.
Yeah.
It was
it's-
just sitting on a rollout.
Part of it's out here on the loading dock if you want to look at it. So anyway, I began to look at this invoice and I'm saying, wait a minute, there's $16,000 worth of materials here. Where did they go? I began looking at various components, pump, starter, valves, just in general, and 2,300 of it was this 4-inch hose that he wanted to buy a portion of it back. So I presented that to the committee last month, and they directed me to writing a letter and say, hey, fella, give us a check for $10,000 for the material that you took. Well, he came in to meet with me and a week ago, and just happened to find a couple of the major components at his place.
really?
Because he said he left
Did
them
he show
here.
up with them in his truck?
Yeah, they're out here on the loading dock as well. So, anyway, we've continued to dig, and Casey's been a real help to me because I've got enough background in this industry, but Casey's the guy on the commercial side, and he said, Lauren, he didn't use this, we're not done yet.
Okay.
We're still, and he's calling me every other day, wanting what more can I do to help, because I'll be honest with you, what I told him, he said there were two different approaches to this. One was send you a letter and ask you to come clean and reimburse us for some of this material, or I could just say, there's been a burglary. I'll call the state police and have it investigated. So if I can't come up with the rest of the stuff,
Nice.
I still have stuff missing, district assets missing.
Right.
So I'll have to call the state police and say, you need to investigate. I know where some of it was. It was over at this guy's place of business.
Guess who the first call is going to be?
You got it.
Yeah.
And so that may be why he's calling me. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, when he called me Thursday, I think it was, I said, there is something you can do for me. I said, would you identify everything on the list of materials as to where you used it? So he sent that to me last Friday, and he's identified everything that was used inside the building, everything that was used outside the building, and everything that was used inside his trailer where the boiler was housed. So we've gotten that far. But we're digging deeper on the labor. The labor is excessive, just absolutely
Well, if he
excessive.
screwed us on the materials, he's gonna screw us on the labor.
So we're digging into that and asking for a full breakdown on that as well. So I'm not done yet, but
Yeah,
that's,
how many men, how many hours, the whole lot, yeah.
But
it's,
Is this a CoStar deal?
no, this was, and I do remember, I don't know that we authorized it. I thought maybe we might have ratified it. I don't, because we were told it was an emergent, like it went
Yeah.
down in the middle of the season and they had
Mary, you're
to,
exactly
they had to
right.
bring in
Yeah.
a temporary boiler. So now I think you might have said at the last meeting, Casey, that from your experience, usually when you do that, all that stuff's included in the rental. It's not like a breakout of installation and parts. It's whatever the rental is covers all that.
it's a mess, to say the least. But we're continuing to dig. One piece, did you get that report from the state on the boiler inspection yet?
I asked the state, I found the letter from the inspector, the state inspector, that the front is your normal info, but then the back is actually what the deficiency was. I only have a copy of the front of the letter, I don't have what the deficiency was in the back. My guess is, and this is just knowing the contractor, the deficiency in the back was not a condemnation of your equipment. It was, this needs to be repaired to be operable.
No.
They turned it around telling you guys that boiler's condemned.
Well, there was,
The original,
Well,
Yeah, and I can, and I know their practices because they love to hook their temporary up for any excuse whatsoever. My dad started that division back in 1982, that company, that division of that company. So it has, I know their practices. For both boilers to go down at the exact same time, I just find it hard to believe.
but they didn't. So my recollection of things, and then correct me if I'm wrong, was that one of the boilers was flagged by the state that we shouldn't be using it because it was weak.
well, when I was still, in my last stint here,
Yeah.
they had welded the
Yes.
leak, okay? And then it sprung the leak somewhere else.
that was,
And then
Yeah.
somebody came in and did some testing, and I guess they were able to see fractures or
yeah.
something.
And that's what I want to see from the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were told, like, they came in that day, the state came in and was like, you can't use this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because it had been welded so.
So many, that
And it
was
wasn't
gonna
both of them though. It was just one of them, and it was like
But
we.
they were the same generation.
Yeah.
You're just living on borrowed time.
Yeah.
No, I don't deny that. The curious thing is that the date of the boiler inspection sheet that we have, front page, is March 6th. The contractor's hookup of the portable boiler commenced one day prior to the date the boiler inspector was here.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
So it sounds like you have a deep rabbit hole.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
But I would just like to throw out, and I appreciate you guys really looking into this, because, I mean, that's $33,000 is a lot of money.
We've recovered some of it out there on the dock.
It's just shy of the truck that
Right.
Trent Casey.
Yeah.
There you go.
My thought would be, though,
Yeah.
when this does kind of get said and done, that material, if we don't need it, maybe we can sell it.
Well-
I would hate to have it just sit here and 20 years from now, somebody's doing an inventory and they go, oh, and we have this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
let's try to get something back for it if we can.
The
Yeah.
other piece we're looking at is the markup on the materials, because Casey,
That's, 12 to
Casey
3.
called the supplier that probably supplied the pump and said, give me a quote on a pump, I need a pump. We got the quote in,
How bad one?
what we figured, $500 over
Our
normal
cost
markup.
is $1,600, they charge us $2,500. So they marked up 50%. And around about.
That's your cost, right? Is that buying it wholesale? We buy wholesale? Okay.
It's the same
So-
vendor, it's
The same people they're buying it from.
Like, we could have just bought it ourselves.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, if they
we
put
could've
10 or
did-
20 points on it, we probably wouldn't care,
But
right?
the other part is,
20%, I think, is pretty standard.
it really wasn't needed. They could have used the building pumps. There's just a lot of
There's-
things
right.
they did that just don't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
We're digging.
But
Like Mike said, it's a
As I
deep
said,
rabbit
it sounds like a deep rabbit hole.
Say off the record, can you tell me the name of that company so I never use them? No.
Yeah, really.
No.
hole. Can you
It's
spell it
public
out on
record,
a
it's
piece
the
of
record
paper.
for 3B services.
3B.
All right.
Any other good news, folks?
He's just getting cranky.
Yeah, he's just getting started.
All right, so I
Sounds
guess
like-
we move then on to service
Should've told my wife
contracts.
I'd
huh?
be a while.
I just handed everybody 2 pages, because I didn't want to minimize the spreadsheet. It's actually, if you want to lay them side by side,
Oh, I got you.
all right?
Oh,
I wanted to make sure you could read it. That made sense. That's why I have everything color-coded. All right. In my first month here, I've seen a lot of invoices come in, and when I see service contract, I ask for a copy of the contract. So here is everything that I have found in the first month of me being here. Train, we have service contracts at every building for the controls. All right, it's high school, middle school, Monocacy,
It's
AEC,
ridiculous.
and not Birdsboro. I didn't see one for Birdsboro because they upgraded those controls as part of the boiler replacement. These costs that you see here are yearly costs. Okay. The term is the amount that was either just paid for this current term or for last year's term. All right, just to kind of give you, and then if you continue right to the second page, you'll see expiration. According to the contract that is signed, that is when it expires.
Like, that's literally 25?
Yes.
I was looking at that too.
Okay.
I thought maybe it was a typo.
And that's kind of why I did this the way I did it. The last year cost, as you can see, is there. That's the per year cost. That's not a cumulative cost. So you can see that the top line item this year cost you $12,684. Well, last year's contract, that I'll be receiving that invoice probably any day for this renewal. But the last year of the 15-year agreement is $18,518. So the two that end in 2025 are actually 15-year agreements.
And we can't cancel them?
Well, we're
You're looking at
working on
that?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, find us a loophole to get out of these.
Just for the record, I passed this by Brian. There are no signatures on those contracts.
There's never any signatures on
And
anything.
Yes!
I,
Sometimes that works.
You start, they issue you probably a, some kind of quote, and if you give them a PO, you're really in a contract at that point, even though you don't have to
surprised.
sign, you're in.
I'll be surprised if there's a PO. I haven't gotten that far. I said to Brian, if we have paid 1 year of these multiple year contracts, is it like past practice that we hear so much about? And he said, no. He said, the law is the board has to approve them.
Every
It
year.
should be signed by the president. And he said, it really doesn't matter. But
I would think certainly for 15 years, my God, you would.
when I first stumbled onto this back in July, I contacted Train, well, the day I had my one and only meeting with the same representative from Train. I said, I want copies of every contract that you've got with us. I want to see them. He said, okay. So he emailed them to me. So what I printed off are emails from Train. This isn't something I found here in the building. They're from Train. And there's one here, no Train signature, but Ken Smith signed as the party. There's another one, no Train signature, Ken Smith. One of these big ones are no signatures from anybody. So Brian's going to review them to see if they're enforceable.
Good.
Why separate contracts? Are they based on the equipment in each building, or?
If you look at service provided, you have control maintenance on those 5.
Right.
What that is they provide a technician every 2 months to come here, and he is supposed to do a full audit of our controls, making sure everything's working, calibrate things as needed.
Does that
so on and
happen?
so forth. Not really.
Okay.
I understand.
Non-compliance.
So part of
Probably have to
that
give them
is
notice and
service
change the
as
correct
well,
it.
that
Yeah.
if we have an issue, we can call them, they're supposed to be able to talk us through it on the phone, so on and so forth. So that's the control maintenance side of it. And as you can see, every building's pretty much the same amount of money. The AEC one, the reason that's a negative 12,000, I wasn't sure what value that 937977 number is the contract I currently have that is unsigned. I don't know if that's the number or if the 12,000 is the number. So I'm not quite sure on that yet. I've been digging as I've had time. The M&V, that is measurement and verification. What that is the annex building and this building were done under what they consider a performance contract, which is what this PACT is, this PACT, all on the right-hand side, the agreement number. What the performance contract is they can do a renovation of a building. They're going to tell you that they can save so much energy, blah, 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 blah. All right. The measurement and verification part of it is a fee that you pay the contractor to prove that they're saving you money.
Say that again?
It's a fee you pay the contractor so they can prove to you they're saving you the money.
I just want to make sure I heard that right.
And if they
We don't need that.
Say it as much
And if
layman's
they're-
terms as possible.
If they're not, do they pay you?
They're supposed to,
Okay.
but they're going to cook the books to make
Right.
themselves look good. It's just
Yeah, that's what I do.
So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Performance contracting is really, and the nuts and bolts of it today anymore is it's a procurement contract. It enables you to get projects done with the people you want and the equipment that you want and still be legal and not have to take low bid. And that's really how your school districts are using performance contracting now, because you can do doors, windows, roofing, brick walls. I mean, you can do flooring, you can do all kinds of things, all right? And they tie it to an energy rebate. At Wilson, the initial one was $8.5 million. We cut it down to 5 phases of about $1.5 million for each phase. I fought with our school board there. This is not a energy savings. This is a procurement contract. You know?
Yeah.
And they finally got it. You know?
Yeah. It was just written that way.
For the legal side of it.
Right.
You know. So we're paying Trane. The equipment maintenance, if you look at the second line item up there, primary, that's your M&V of $29,315, and the annex is $28,695. So we're paying them $58,010 for 2 locations for them to tell us they're saving us money. All right. And then that $28,695 goes up 3.5% every year for a term of 20 years, which goes till 9/1/23.
God bless them.
I wish I could
Now,
do that.
those you can just say, hey, I don't want them anymore. I've accepted your contract. I know we're saving the money. See you.
Well, the one that's so. Let me just clarify, because the second line item, you said the primary, the $29,315,
Yep,
but that has an expiration date of
25.
Yeah.
Which I was not aware till this morning. Till
Okay.
The gentleman emailed me saying that is the M&V side. I thought that was just equipment here.
Okay.
It's equipment service and the M&V.
So what can we cut out of this? Do we know at this point,
Well,
or
Brian's got to look at
The
it.
M&V,
The M&V for sure.
and the rest depends on,
The control side of it, to be honest with you,
The ones that are
the
up.
service they're really providing us is not that great. I'd have really almost no problem getting rid of every single one of them and bring in CM3 to do the control side of it on an as-needed basis instead of this. Literally, their technician comes here. I'll use this building for example. He came here at 9:30 in the morning, sat down with his Dunkin' Donuts coffee and his donuts, and sat down there at his computer for about 3-4 hours and left, and went to lunch in the middle of that. So if he's doing that at 6 times a year here, and then he's doing it at every building, and I asked the other people like Kenny Templin and Dave Wagner, I said, what does he do when he's here? Well, kind of that.
So he doesn't do anything.
So it really has not provided
And
us
if we need any repairs or anything,
That's
or they find any problems, we pay extra, right?
extra.
Time
So this is-
material.
$123 an hour.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Plus mileage.
If we would hire like somebody from the HVAC field that knew this full time and had them on staff and paid their benefits and all that, we would still probably pay less than this number
Well, there was a
just for the
unit,
contract.
there's a unit that was down over at Monocacy that heated the caf. It was down all last year. Not sure how they had heat in the cafeteria. I think they kept like all the doors and stuff open. Train couldn't get it working. So, all right. So I called one of my former competitors, who was a very good company. I said, give me one of your guys. I want you to check the unit out. I said, I have no idea what's wrong with it. Just come in and check it out. Found a line that was smashed on the compressor that Train disconnected and capped. Instead of fix it, they disconnected and capped it. So now the unit couldn't dehumidify, so therefore it couldn't heat because it would freeze up. What? All right. So they came in, they fixed the line that was bad, tested the unit out, found a valve was defective, and I believe they were here today to replace the valve. I'm going to have probably, I'm going to guess anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 in man hours total time into the job.
What about
And what do we
materials?
pay? What do we pay Train
Oh,
to
okay.
try?
And everything. I mean, I'm looking
What do we-
no more than probably $2,000.
So you would rather, so just to clarify, you would rather, if, let's just take any legal ramifications out of the way or contractual obligations, you would rather do away with all of this and call
I would
in,
rather have there's some service contracts I'm going to need, service to the chillers and that kind of stuff, but I can do that with a company I had in there at $75 an hour.
and you just pay them time and materials?
Well, no, they'll give me
Yeah, it's a
contract
contract
saying,
rate,
hey,
but
if I
it's
service
not
your
30
chiller
grand.
4 times a year, I grease your pumps and stuff like that, you're talking a couple $1,000 compared to this atrocity here, what they're doing. Control-wise, I can buy a block of time from CM3, 60 hours, a block of time, and then I just use that time as needed.
Right.
So there's other options to do, but I will need some of that money just to do
Oh,
normal
well, yeah.
PMs, but not at a tune of $103,000.
So you think you could whack this down to like,
I need probably about 20 to 25 grand of that.
Well, I could buy a truck, Ben.
that'll buy you a couple of trucks a year.
Yeah, somewhere in that next.
Complete
Like right now, I
refresh in no
have the invoice
Yeah, right, you're using that money.
for the annex. It's $29,996. That's on my desk.
Can we say no, don't pay it?
It's on my desk, and I'm not signing it until
Okay.
we get directive from the
Yeah.
solicitor. And then we move
Okay.
Well,
forward,
yeah,
you
I think you
So-
guys are doing the right thing. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing for nothing, but the approach I would just take on a very simplistic level is say, you know what? We got some real problems with this. We're not going to be paying any bills until we wade through all this.
And I think they know it.
And that's why when I met with this guy in July,
That's why
he
he hasn't
knew
come
that
back.
I was digging into things, and his first visit with Casey, he said,
What's your relationship with Lauren? Good. Why? Conversation stopped right there.
Yeah, you should have been like, I don't know him that well. I don't really talk
She
to
said,
him.
man, that guy's a real jerk. Can
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
you can get out.
Yeah, good cop, bad cop.
So we'll continue down this list. Select security, camera maintenance. This is at the high school. Daniel Boone School District paid $44,000 for a camera system in, I believe it was '09. On top of that, you're paying currently $485 a month for camera maintenance.
What do they do for
Well-
camera
Well,
maintenance?
they're not doing anything because they couldn't fix the system, so they're calling another company to do the repairs.
What's wrong with the system?
Whenever it doesn't work, right, the DVR doesn't work, or
But does that cover the hardware itself as
it's supposed to
well?
be normal wear and tear. So if a camera is up in the ceiling and it stops working,
They'll replace it or
They're
repair it.
That's
Replace it.
$5,000 a year.
Yeah, but-
Cameras are cheap now.
Yeah, but
Especially you can get.
plus it's a system that's not working real well. That's one system.
it's a coax system, is it not,
Yeah,
Casey?
that's one system.
wow.
I mean, you can get a VoIP system for fraction of the cost, and it's network.
Yeah, IP
Exactly.
cameras.
Below that,
That's my,
yeah,
There you
yeah, you
Oh, that's your world?
We can hire you under your business name.
I don't have.
But below that, E-Lock security specialists, camera maintenance. That is
Wait a
for
minute.
Middle school, AEC, and the high school.
Hmm?
Those are per month, and.
Why is the high school this?
Isn't that redundant?
Well, there's two systems at the high school.
Okay.
There's an infrared system, and there's a non-infrared system up there.
There's an
From what I
infrared.
understand is both of the systems don't work very well, and they're not very user-friendly, so on and so forth. So we're paying another $12,000 and change on maintenance of these cameras. And I asked
$18
E-Lock
grand a year to
for
me.
the,
Cameras. I'm in the wrong
the
business.
first day I get their invoice, I just said, can you send me a copy of your signed contracts? The first thing I get from them is a one-page letter saying how they fixed so many things that weren't part of the contract over the past years, and they should be applauded for that, more or less. So,
That's what my company would do too. Like,
Well, thank you very much. Can I please have a copy of the contract?
Yeah.
so we're paying we're over $18,000 a year to maintain camera systems that
that
are.
I can buy cameras and replace
For-
rather than even having to troubleshoot. If that camera doesn't work, boom, out. in,
Between you
done.
and IT, you ought to figure it out, right?
They'll probably all have like, what,
Security
24
and
hours
IT
or something like that, so
Yeah.
you can
Never.
you can take those cameras out, put a Wi-Fi,
And it should
put a
be
Wi-Fi camera in
network-based.
there.
Yeah.
And there's so many access points in the building, you know, for the wireless.
Yeah.
You really don't need a cable coax system anymore, and, you know, hard drive space is pretty cheap, you know, for
Right.
keeping,
Yeah.
IT has never been involved.
And Scott,
That's a
myself,
problem.
have been
How do you
involved
not
in
involve
that.
IT? Well,
And
Scott
that's,
wasn't here
yeah,
the
and
whole
that
time,
was
was he?
something, you know, I'm not
Right,
trying
which
to defend it,
we're trying to,
because
no,
that's
we want to
really
get him
emerging.
involved.
Yeah.
We want to get him involved with it as well. And
Get the
and-
network involved.
Because that's what I
Yeah.
wanted Ken, when they had that damage down at the football field, I had spec'd out two cameras for Kenny. Just gave him the specifications for infrared,
Right.
you know, to wash with the light, you know, what you would need to, you know, wash the field or in that the concession stand area.
Mhm.
And so you could monitor with two cameras, and you'd have video that was, you know, broadcast back to the high school, and they would hit an access point at that point, go right onto the network. But there was a lot of, you know, Mr. Haas, he had so many other things going on at the same time, so, and that kind
Okay.
of like fell by the wayside.
So how many cameras do we have? Do we, like, quantity, do we
I
know?
haven't really gone through and counted them all.
Yeah.
Do
You
we
know, in each
do we really
school.
use the systems? Because you said they don't really work.
They
So
really don't work.
what if you took like if you just stopped paying maintenance?
It's mask off in
Let's
front of
see.
the camera.
So what if you just stopped paying maintenance contracts and you took that money and replaced the systems?
Exactly kind of what my thought was.
And with the price of cameras, we could double the number and increase the
Right.
frequency and get some real
I don't know. Is
legitimate
that
coverage that could be used. And then the principal or disciplinarian, whoever is handling, could monitor network-wise, network-based, and see what's going on.
does that seem like a
Nice.
reasonable?
You won't
I can
have-
definitely get contractors in here and get some numbers, and
Yeah.
we can,
You don't have to do it wholesale.
No.
One
Right.
time, you can just do
Right.
two at a time,
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and, you know, have two systems, you know, one does this part of the high school, the old system does this part of the high school, and replace it, you know. as-
Phased approach.
But my understanding, you can cancel all
You
of
can
those
spell
with
it,
30
spend up to
days notice,
$18,000
or
a year.
that one is
expiration is 2/22/15 on the middle school one that
and you can cancel from auto renew 30 days in advance, or we can cancel it anytime between now and 2015.
like the one for $137, the high school. The contract date is 7/20/2011 for 5 years.
Okay. Why so long?
I don't know.
I
Just
know,
what they do
right?
to tie
Tie you
so
in.
forget, and then you get an auto renew for 5 years.
Well, we
Yeah.
could put them on notice now that we're not renewing, right? And then,
Well, and there again, it's
Then we don't have
going
to
back
forget.
to the thing, if Kenny signed them without board approval, are they valid?
Like
Okay,
everything else.
so-
Like everything else. So,
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, regardless of how it was working, if we could use that as our out, we could get out of all this stuff.
Tri-State Elevator, I called them and I said this was up for renewal. I wrote them a letter at the end of October, well, the end of September, and I said, hey, we're not going to renew. I get a letter back, you haven't met your notification period, so screw you, you're stuck till 2020, was more or less what I was told by them. So there again, if
Oh.
Wait, when did you notify him?
it was like the middle of October, so I didn't give them the 90 days
Oh.
certified. I missed it by like 10 days.
Really?
Yeah. So I more or less got a,
Slow pay them.
letter.
Yeah, I have, because I don't know that would, I don't know that that's, I'd
Right,
have,
so,
yeah.
But don't we have to have
You
something?
have to have them done.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm getting an estimate from a local, from Red Reading Elevator as well to see where they are with cost wise.
And-
They're actually coming tomorrow.
Okay.
Croasis,
I'm just curious, how often do you have them inspected?
every
Quarter.
every 6 months.
So that might not be
Every 6
horrible,
months.
but,
How many elevators do we have?
5.
One in every building,
Oh, yeah.
There's
Okay.
5
except this
total.
building.
and that,
Yeah.
okay, so there's
Figure.
5, and they inspect them twice a year, and
Twice a
it's,
year, and you pay $375 per quarter. So it's not a.
That's
it's not a
not
huge number.
horrible.
It's not a huge
Yeah,
number.
I would-
Just-
okay.
I just put everything on here so everybody kind of
yeah,
knows.
no,
where
it's
it
good,
goes.
but,
Croasis is your chemical treatment of your cooling towers and boilers and whatnot. Yearly cost is $9,300. There's something that, we definitely do need. That's just a normal maintenance. Secure home, I do not know what we're paying. We've been playing phone tag for fire alarm monitoring. That's for any smoke detectors, any pool stations that are pulled. You have to have that, Berkshire Systems does our annual fire alarm inspections. They come in once a year doing audible and functional test where they actually go around to every smoke detector, hit it with a little fake smoke, make sure it goes off. And then it's a visual inspection, the other inspection, which is required by code. I know I can get that probably cheaper with somebody else. This is the one that kind of made me laugh a little bit. I was cleaning out a desk drawer, and I found this stack of cards. And it says account number and a PIN code from Security First. Like, So I have no bills, no nothing from them that I could find. So I call them, and I say to the girl, I'm going to ask you a really stupid question. Don't laugh at me when I ask you this, but do we do business with you?
That's great.
And she starts laughing. I said, I told you not to laugh at me. She goes, I'm sorry, sir. I said, no, it's okay. This is a funny question. I found out that we have 2 alarms. An alarm system at the high school and an alarm system at the middle school, security alarms, that we're paying $1,400 a year for that's not used. They don't use it at all. So that was kind of, one of those things.
Why do we only have 2 buildings with security alarms, and then we're not using them?
Well, that's the other.
Strange.
The other question was,
Like-
we had E-Lock, as a matter of fact, on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I get a phone call from Dave Wagner doing a building check of the middle school. And before he goes into the building, he calls me and says, there's a van out here with an enclosed trailer. I don't know who's here. Do you know anything about it? I said, no. I said, call the cops. Have them escort you into the building. See
Yeah.
who's in there. Well, here it was E-Lock Security doing camera repairs. He was called by the vice principal, the assistant principal of the building. And he has a key to our school. Now, he is a cop from Exeter, but still, he has a key to our building. So it comes to facilities. Do we limit the access of our buildings?
Absolutely.
Should.
Should they start using the alarm system? Do we have to give people codes to use the alarm system? It's something we have to discuss moving forward on how we're going to do this. Because we don't know who has keys. You know, we
Yeah.
don't know who uses the buildings for, you know, cheerleading practice or basketball practice or whatever.
And why did the assistant principal, who has the authority to do that?
That's the way they've always done it.
Okay.
But they'll be getting an email tomorrow from me that any repairs need to come through my office.
Yeah, you need to know what's going on, who's in the building.
Because then ELOC forwarded me their email from Dane Miller from AEC having the same kind of things. So, you know, more or less I said, cease and desist on anything until.
Well, I think what we have to also do is we have to get Mary Beth to send out some type of communication to reinforce that.
Well, it's probably, what you're finding is a different way it
Style,
was managed.
right.
I mean,
Oh, sure.
Kenny wanted it handled a certain way,
Right.
Tracy's gonna want it handled a certain way. It's
Right.
not that anybody's doing something wrong, they're
Right.
just doing what they've always done.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
now
Yeah,
they're
and
gonna
that's-
get new direction.
And I was over at the middle school, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't mean to create a monster." I said, "No," I said, "You were doing what you've always done." I said, "I wasn't aware of that, but I would prefer that, you know, moving forward to control costs and to see where our expenses are going, you know, it all go through us." Because there again, I believe Glenn and Phil, our maintenance guys, can fix the cameras. I mean, they're pretty sharp guys. I don't think we need to have somebody else in here. So it's just another thing.
That's the
And-
right avenue.
No, and I agree, because and I'll be honest, Dave Rocco asked about those contracts shortly after he got on the board, on the bill list one time, and I mean, I did ask Kenny at a facilities meeting, and he's like, "Yep, we got it, we need it."
Right.
You know, I don't know. I'm just, if that's what, who am I to say whether you need it or don't need it? I don't know.
And then the
So,
last one that I found was this JMSI. They do the MSDS compliance. They come to our building, our school every year, look at all the chemicals, make sure our MSDS sheets are up to snuff, and asbestos inspections. There's like 2 locations that have a little bit of asbestos. They just make sure it's intact. So they just do a visual inspection and write a report saying it's all intact. So.
Is that necessary?
That's
Also,
necessary.
yeah, I would imagine.
So, I mean, if I don't pay them, I have to pay somebody like Spot Stevens and McCoy or somebody like that. I mean, for $500, listen, I don't want to be bothered with MSDS sheet compliance. For $500, that's money. That's money well spent.
Yeah.
You know, when I found out that we paid them $500 a year, I went, okay, I'll just keep that one. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, the necessity contract.
I'm sorry, do they have to put, do
All
you guys
the
have to put a
binders.
little tag? Well, I know about the binders, but do you have to put a tag and a label on all your containers that, you know,
With the
identify what
global
it is?
harmonizing system, which now is the new
MSD.
MSDS, which we have to be in compliance with by 2016. I think June 30th of 2016 is when the GHS system goes into effect. There are some rules with that, so we have to get, and all the schools are going through it right now, trying to figure out what do we have to do, what, you know.
Because we just went through it with our business. I mean, every container has any kind of like anything in it. You have to identify what it is, with its health, flammability, all that stuff on it.
Wow.
Unless you plan on, you know, say you have a big thing of paint and it has a label on it, and you take that and you pour it in the small thing, and then you're gonna just do some touch up, or you're gonna consume it that day, that doesn't count. But
Okay.
it took us months to get that all.
Jeez. Oh, I can imagine that.
It's
Yeah, the new system is a little bit of a nightmare, so.
Right
but-
down to whiteout, you know, anything like that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's all being driven by Europe.
That's government gone wild
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
and
So-
an attorney.
And attorneys, yeah.
Of this total yearly cost of 144 grand, of what is listed here, necessity contracts, you know, are, you know, the elevator, the chemical treatment, the fire alarm inspections. I think those are the 3 things I have listed, which is 22,306. So just kind of giving you an idea.
All right, so elevator, what else, Casey?
Elevator, the
Fire
chemical
alarm.
treatment.
Chemical.
And
The Berkshire
the fire
systems.
alarm inspections for 10,996. I didn't write down
Do you-
on my spreadsheet.
And the JMSI, or no?
And the JMS.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you add them, they're going to be real close to 22 and change.
Okay.
So the other ones, you know, are going to be up for discussion. as to what we do once the solicitor gets back to us, on what's valid and what's not.
Did Lauren, did Brian say what the timetable was on this? Okay.
Remember, you can squeeze those billable hours in, right?
120,000 is not chump change.
No.
No.
No, not at all. That's great.
Well, plus it's flexibility.
And now I'm going to
Yeah.
need.
You're gonna need some of that money
Of
for,
that 120, let's say I need 30. Now you're 52 of 144,
Well, yeah.
so it's still 90 grand.
Well, Casey, this is great work.
So,
Really.
it's a way
Both of you
to,
guys.
way to start funding our capital reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Is that the next item?
No, we're getting there.
Item regarding that.
We're getting there.
But like I said, this is what I found.
Okay.
So those are copies for you guys.
Great,
just to
thank you.
And not to say we won't be back next month with more, but
Well, right, because that's just what's come across your desk, I guess.
Well, yeah, start beating up all our vendors and suppliers.
Well, I think it's more important that we get these on a master sheet so they're,
Yep.
we know what the expiration is. We get a notification from the administration that, hey, this is coming due. You've already started the process of getting, new RFIs out there.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and if we can't get out of them, then we start, as they start coming due, canceling them. So,
Fingers crossed we can.
yes.
Maybe you can pay them in nickels over time.
Yeah, right. I'd love to be fired by them as far as customers, for paying slow.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Works both ways.
Yeah,
Sure.
we've done it. We don't do business with the school district of Philadelphia anymore.
well, that's understandable.
Not when it takes 120 days to get $175 out of them. Like, you're not going to get involved in that.
It's not
rat
even
race.
worth your billing, it's
No.
worth time billing it.
No.
So, acquisition of replacement vehicles around, was that kind of,
We
did we
already
cover
did
that
that.
on your
Yep.
assets?
We're done with
Okay.
that.
So, the Matthew Brook Building, any update on that?
I met with Brooke Kramer the other day. There's 3 doors that need to be painted, and 3 bathrooms where there's VCT tile that need to be waxed, polished. Other than that, and the locks. There's 6 or 7 doors of the 13 that they don't have keys for. So the same locksmith I would have called, the local locksmith, he's calling just to repin them, cut new keys, and he's going to forward us that at cost. He said that way he can just arrange it, that he can meet him, because if I would have arranged it, I still would have had to,
Right.
go through them. So I plan on having our grounds guys take care of the painting and the floors in the next 2 weeks.
Then we're done.
And then we're done. And there's a rug issue.
I say, was the carpet issue cleared up?
Carpet issue.
That's
He's gonna
long
try to
term
rent-
if you can't lease it.
Yeah, he's gonna try to rent as is. We discussed a couple options. It's a hallway, not a hallway, but it's kind of, there's open pillars, and it's a walkway area. And I said to him, if worst comes to worst, you always cut that rug out, put, floor tile in there, or a pergo, or something, and make the transition look really nice, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? Because try to piece it would be a nightmare. Because now you're talking going into all the offices, and it's right in the middle of the open area of that upstairs. So, all you need to do is cut that out and try to make some other type of flooring in those areas
Or replace all the carpet?
throughout the whole place.
Okay.
Because it's not like there's a threshold where you
Right.
stop and start. It's just
Goes forever.
Peel and stick tile.
Well,
something real nice.
I mean, are they open to that, or would they want the carpeting replaced the whole?
It's going to depend.
Okay.
It's going to depend on his tenant, on what their needs are, that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
but we're moving forward with those things. Those items.
Do they have a tenant?
Not yet. But the 3 doors that weren't painted, I talked to our grounds guy, Greg, who painted the area, and he said he was told not to paint it until we were done being moved out. He said, and they were some miscommunication there, that he thought they were going to take care of it. So the paint's there, it's just a matter of him going over for a couple mornings, throw a coat of paint on it, go back the next morning, another coat of paint, so we'll try to get that in here the next 2 weeks. Now that the grass stopped growing, so
Yeah.
we won't be up there mowing.
Yeah, right.
Okay. BC door replacement.
I believe, I'm told, that some time ago, prior to my arrival, that there was discussion regarding replacing doors, exterior doors at BEC. And there were quotes at that time, and Casey updated them with a couple other quotes, and we got lesser cost. It's going to be around $38,000. It's state contract, but it still should appear on the agenda, so I'm going to put that on for board approval this month and move ahead. The main bank of doors in the front of the building is pretty bad. Playground access in the back is really bad.
That was the one that Kenny said that they just couldn't fix anymore.
Yeah, and we found it chained one day, second day of school, and we said we really shouldn't have those exit doors chained.
No.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway, that'll be on the on the agenda.
38,000
Yep.
to replace the doors.
Yeah, well, that's actually 3,
There's 6 doors in the front.
right.
The one side door is permanently locked, so they can't use it. The problem is, right now, you have 6 doors in the vestibule area that you can exit out. And by code, if you have 6 in the vestibule, you need 6 exterior. Right now, we have 5.
One of them's posted do not use.
So what Kenny was going to do was he was going to put panels, solid panel doors, on the 2 outside and only have the 4 interior. So his proposal from before was much cheaper, but he was only doing 4 doors. By code, we can't do that. By code, if you have 6 in the vestibule, you need 6 exterior, so.
So this is the
we're
replace
going
6
from
door?
4 doors to 6 doors, so if there's.
6 in the front. Total doors is 6 in the front, 2 in the back to the playground, and
2 at the dock.
So it's 10.
The dock doors, so it's a total of 10 doors.
And 2 at the dock.
Now, the two in the playground are 2'6" doors. They're each 2'6" wide. What we're proposing is a 3-foot door, because they only use one door at a time anyway. So we'll put a 3-foot door and a 2-foot door, and the 2-foot door will have a latch in the top. So
Those are
you can't use it
CoStar's
as well.
people again?
yes.
Okay. Yeah. There's
And-
some people there, but I don't think they're CoStar.
And the money from this is coming from,
We'll find it within the budget.
okay. Right, I'm okay, I mean, I'm okay with that if you're just do without something else because you need this.
Didn't we, was it on the agenda for approval last year, when this first came up?
It could have been. Here again, it
Well, I mean,
related.
it's going to be revised,
Yeah.
but
It was all tied into that BEC boiler project, that they were going to get a discount on something that was going to generate funds for this, and I said, I don't want to know about that, I'll make it work.
Okay.
Seems like a lot of money for 10.
Are you?
I'm sure they're,
The one, well, the other part of it is all your doors there are a fiberglass door. Fiberglass cover on the inside and out. So if you go and you put a painted door in there, it's going to look really kind of out of place throughout the whole school. You're going to have nice door, painted door, nice door kind of thing. At your front entrance, it's going to take the most wear and tear, so you really don't want to put painted doors there anyway. And then doors aren't cheap.
I'm trying to think of what the
I'm
doors
I'm sure
look like
some
there.
kind of specially coded.
No, they're just
There's not a picture there, are they?
Like, is this worth bidding
fiberglass
now?
panel on the door, but
Would you
with the
bid
lights,
this?
you have to put the
We
tempered glass.
could,
the
we've
glass
already
temp
got 2
lights,
quotes.
the tempered
Could
glass.
I get you a third quote and we
for the
can call it a
windows.
bid?
Yeah, there's just.
Well, you have
We
to
have
have,
to-
yeah,
we have to advertise
you
it.
should have 3
Well,
quotes
you
anyway,
know.
shouldn't you?
But it,
And
Well,
also
under,
the
under
ones in
state
the back
contract,
are
we
framing
can
everything.
discuss
Oh, it's state,
straightforward.
okay, it's CoStar's.
you could just go with it. But if you said, what if we looked for somebody who's not on CoStar's?
Then we would have to get 3
I don't
quotes.
know.
Well,
I don't
actually,
know if you do it. I'm
bid
just-
then, because it's.
No, I know.
Right.
Well, I was yelling at the vendor,
And that-
Craig, come
and
on.
that has an
this
additional
piece.
cost to it?
You know, it's just-
advertising 3
These
weeks and all
these
of
doors.
that.
Yeah, and you
No,
gotta pay
no,
for
no, no,
specs
no,
and pay for
no,
legal and contracts.
You do? Really?
Technically, if you put out the bid, it should be reviewed by your solicitor. and
Well,
Can we do
Put it to
that? Like,
contract.
I guess I'm asking if I had a
Yeah, it's all
friend,
the
if I had a
hype.
friend
Just,
look at that and
you
say I
know,
could
you
do it
can't
for
have
half the
things
cost,
in
would it be
certain
worth
spots,
it then?
You know.
Well,
To- like, I
no,
don't know.
because if
We
you
would
get,
have to draw up specs for the bid
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then move
Well,
forward.
I can tell you, the company that I call, I've done probably 40 doors now with them over
Okay.
Wilson. The first
This
15
company?
of them, yeah, the first 15 of them, I got 3 prices and they were low every time. And the nice thing is their installer's an Ole, and the guy's very conscientious, and literally, I told him, if you can't give me Dean, I don't want anybody. You know, I'll go somewhere else.
Can we beat them? I mean, is that, I guess
That's
there's
about
not,
as good as you're gonna get, believe it or not.
A lot of it's
Look at
going
it
to be
this way, at least there's
hardware.
not a maintenance contract with them.
her doors, can you imagine?
Your 3 local, pretty much your 3 guys are AG Morrow, A&L Doors out of Lowell, Lancaster, and General Supply, which is up in Allentown. They're pretty much your 3 school people. for
Co-stars
doors.
guys, yeah.
You know, they're just, it is what it is. You're getting a good quality door. It's going to give you a long life, you know.
God, if it's anything like the doors on my house, mine gets wore the hell out. Old school. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay, well,
all right. Well, I guess that leaves us with the reserve study, and we're kind of a couple hours in here, so I don't want to drag this out real long, and I know I didn't even bring my copy.
Yeah, I didn't
so I
either.
don't know if anybody else, but is there maybe a couple things that you want to touch on that we could go briefly?
I read through some of the sections of things that I could understand. And even the things I didn't
Share.
understand, it seemed like there was, for lack of a better word, a lot of fluff in it. You know, of course, I know, I mean, I believe the school went through, they went from the, I think, standard lights to a T5. Okay, but when you look at the report, you know, it shows you the savings, and they want you to go from, they're taking the incandescent light bulb, comparing it to an LED light bulb, and the savings, and that's true. However, the savings between what we actually have with T5, which we spent a lot of money upgrading to, and LED, are de minimis. Truly,
Right.
why bother? Because the cost of LED lighting is hasn't come down to the point yet, the price point where it's more effective than what we already have, yet there's misrepresented savings by doing some of this stuff. And that was just one thing, and I understand that. I mean, when
Right.
it comes to roofing, it's like, all right, yeah, that, and like that's all, it's a lot of window dressing, and there were some things that if you didn't know what you're talking about, and you were gonna write a spec for what you wanted, yeah, I can understand that was probably okay. But I mean, for the thing, I don't understand a thing about HVAC systems, you know, plumbing.
Hopefully he
The only
does.
thing I know plumbing is when something's clogged, I grab this thing with a handle and I go. But I mean, there's, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, we paid a good amount of money for this report, and I guess I'm just asking Casey, I mean, is there any useful information in there when you take into context that already some of the things, they misrepresent the savings you could have by doing something?
What they did is they took your standard life expectancy of roofing, walls, windows, doors, you know, whatever, and said, it was installed this year, normal life expectancy is 15 to 20 years, based on cost per square footage of industry standard, here's your cost because you have this much area of it. And that's kind of the last hour of my day today was sitting on my desk with my feet up, and I'm sitting there going page by page by page, just kind of like, okay, did I miss something here? I mean, you know, it's a good basic synopsis to kind of give you a very broad overview of what your anticipated costs are. But you know, some of their lifespans are kind of out of line. I mean, yeah.
Short, you mean?
No, I mean, like, you can have air handlers, they say 15 to 20 years. If you properly maintain it, that thing can last you 25, 30, 35 years.
Right.
I mean, an air handler is a motor, a fan, and a coil.
Right.
They haven't changed the design in 60 years, They've made the motors a little more efficient and the fans a little more efficient, but, overall. And all they do is they did if you really look at when they go through the analysis of it and the description of it, it's like, you have these units in this school, here's the life expectancy, here's your cost to replace. You have this roof, here's your life expectancy, here's your cost. For people that don't understand it, it's kind of a $42 million, we have to spend this kind of money.
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years,
Yeah.
and it's good to have an idea of that, I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of fluff there. There's a lot of added expense there.
Well, what I wanted to, and I thought the purpose of going through that exercise and that expense was to find out what are we not putting away into our capital reserve that we're going to get hit with later on. The big surprise at Birdsboro, right? We don't want to have that happen again. So I'm thinking like, okay, $2 million a year. Geez, like we're not putting anything like that away today. So,
But even if you cut that in half, right now we're not putting anything away.
Nothing.
So
Even $1 million a
I think
year,
this is a good starting spot. And you're right. Maybe we don't have to need to put $2.5 million away every year, but I think even if we need half of what this is, it's a lot of money we don't have.
Right. I agree with Mike. I mean, I voted for this thing, but I expected to see a hell of a lot more detail than this.
me too.
And then they come up and what was it, year whatever it was, they want another $50,000 for an upgrade. I mean,
Second year.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
really?
No thanks.
I mean,
And if you look at the top of the front sheet there, everything is based on a flat 2.6%
Right.
inflation.
right, exactly.
For 20 years.
That's
I mean,
low, isn't it?
Hindsight
Well,
being 2020.
Lower
If
high.
I had known
Yes, number out of the sky.
what I knew
Yeah.
now, I would have just had you two guys go on out and go building by building.
Well, Casey and I were looking at it tonight just from the camera security system standpoint. And knowing the condition of our secure camera system this summer when they analyzed it, they, trying to find it here, but it's not until 2023 that they say we need to do anything with that, and then it's $94,000 in 2 buildings.
Well, they're just going off life expectancy then. They're not actually
Right.
looking at the condition.
So,
They
so
were
they
supposed to
didn't,
look at condition.
yeah, so
Okay.
they didn't even know how old
Original
this.
use. They just were like, okay, well, that system was installed so-and-so date, it's gonna last you 15 to 20 years. And we expect that cost
Holy
in 15
cow.
to 20 years is gonna cost you this.
That's a lot of money
That-
to spend.
It was it's a very generic study of this kind of looking at everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't think they looked at how your buildings are used.
Page 202 of the middle school.
If you follow me, I don't think
Yeah.
So
they
it's
talked to really anybody. and said,
5.
okay,
I think it's 5
how do you
pages.
use
in.
these buildings? What are
One
your
for high
needs?
school,
Like, they
too,
have
that's
money
what
in
it
there for stage floors.
I saw that.
Thinking, if you're just being responsible on your stage floor, you get a stage floor to last a long time. I mean,
Yeah,
I know schools that are 70 years old that still have the original wood stage floor, and it's,
and even then you can sand it down and refinish it.
So I don't think they looked at how the school district uses it. They looked at a facility, and there again, they said, if you wanted to replace these tables, they would tell you, okay, these tables last you 10 years, and in 10 years, it's going to cost you this much money to replace these tables. Not to say that, you use this just for meetings, that these are going to last maybe 20 years. I'm just using
Right.
those as an example,
And I was looking at, I was looking at for preventative maintenance recommendations and things like that, and to see what, I know like the roofing, they have like an inspection, and I saw that, have a roof inspection, and what you could do to replace it, that's great. But I think, to your point, if you have a car and you take care of it, you change the oil, you do all the maintenance things, you're going to get a lot more life expectancy out of it than somebody beats the heck out of it. But this is kind of what I looked at as the worst case scenario. If you did nothing and you sat on, you waited, things failed, this is what you're doing, which in reality, you know, like the cameras are going to be replaced as they fail, whether we're under this contract, whether or not. What you're replacing them with is a lot less cost and more functional than what you
Than what
than
they're
what
saying
you have.
here.
The turf, I'll use the turf for football field as a matter of fact. I forget where it's at in replacement. But they never really looked at the turf. I mean, we just spent $5,000 on fill material to bring the levels back up to where we need to, and we spent 2 days doing it, you know, with the guys. I'm sure that not having the proper fill in that turf has shortened the lifespan of that turf a little bit, as added wear and tear. So, you know, we definitely want to stay on top of that now and make that turf last as long as possible. I even talked to Field Turf about it, because the reason I talked to them was, you have now boys and girls lacrosse. Well, those lines are not on the turf field. All right, so the guys use what they call ghost paint. It's a washable paint, and they have to lay the lines out. One thing, they have to paint them once a week or every couple of days if it rains a lot. So I said to Field Turf, what's it going to cost me to get lines put in that? So they're going to get me a proposal. Then I'm going to sit down with the guys and say, okay, how much paint do you use? How much time does it take you? And then Field Turf says, well, you know, your turf's already 5 years old. You know, how much lifespan do you have left of that? Is it worth a worthwhile expense to do the lines, even if it pays for itself in 5 years if you're replacing the turf in 5 years? You know, and that was just kind of the discussion we had there.
Well, this says 2026.
12 more years, yeah. Year 12 of moving forward, they say 600,000 to replace.
Right. So they're giving us till 2026, so that was,
12 years out.
yeah, but I'm trying to think, was that 15 years? So when did we put that in? 2009?
Well, he says 5 years
so
old, 17.
15, I guess. 15.
My recollection is that we didn't get the turf that we paid for because they didn't have enough of the turf we paid for, so we got an upgrade.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was
Because
at
that was done
a
before.
meeting when I heard that one.
Okay.
They didn't have enough of what they got spec, so they had to move up to the higher grade turf.
Yeah, like, just because my name's on that stadium, I don't know anything about it.
Right,
Oh,
and that's what I'm saying. You know, they didn't look at your
Why didn't
They
want
didn't
my
look
name
at
on
how
that?
you use your turf field either, and come up with a number of how fast it's going to wear out. You know, so that's what I'm saying with the study. They just kind of said, okay, well, that turf field, this many square footage of turf, and it's going to cost this much money to replace based on,
Industry standard.
yeah.
Here's a suggestion I'd like to make,
Okay.
is, what did we pay for that, 70 grand?
75 something?
69, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's a guide.
For the,
Oh, for this?
You know,
Oh, it was, what did I just,
69 and change? I thought.
69, right?
yeah, we still owe them half, because I haven't sent them the check yet.
oh, don't.
Wait,
That's two class.
No, actually, I think somebody actually did approve this.
I think we signed it. I think
we
we
did
did.
sign this
You
one.
did, I
And-
think.
No, I'm
no,
just,
but
oh,
they
we
come
did.
back. I mean, well, that's the other thing. I mean, we can get them to come back and talk to them to refine this too. I think we have 6 months.
Well,
Okay, well, you know what,
Accept it.
that's a damn good point. Let's hold that thought. But here's my suggestion. You guys use this as a guide, but just as a suggestion, nothing for nothing. Put together a 1 or 2 pager, 3 and 5 years out. What's going to have to get done from where you guys sit? What's going to have to get done?
Yeah, because it ramps up, right? The first couple of years are
You know?
pretty low
I
in
don't
numbers,
have a little
right?
sheet with me tonight. I broke it all out by
Yeah,
year.
you did.
Because I know you guys have probably got something bubbling around in the back of your head saying, yeah, this is going to come up and bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
We're going to start looking at this, and, you know.
The biggest thing that I've seen, and I haven't looked at the mechanicals the way Casey has, but the thing that jumps out to me is the blacktop, especially at the high school. If that doesn't get sealed next year, that's going to start breaking up, and then you don't want the bill.
No.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking
Yep.
about.
Yeah, and I called the company that I used over at Wilson to rent the crack sealer, you know. And if I rent it for a week and I use 2 skids of material, it's about $6,000.
I was going to say, it can't be that
But we
much.
can do that with
Pennies
our staff.
compared to-
I mean,
Right.
it's a whole gear you tow with the trailer. It has the air compressor to blow the cracks out. It has the hopper, I mean, it's all inclusive, you know, and
That's
what's
the
nice
grounds
with them
crew
is.
when the days are not mowing.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
see, but to me, I think sometimes too, we're almost, what is it, penny wise, pound foolish
We're
or
not
something. I
sealing,
mean,
we're just
it's
filling the cracks, but
$6,000.
Yeah.
if you
Why
get
would
the
we
crack
not even
seal,
why would that not
it's
just
gonna
be-
buy you a lot of time.
An ounce of prevention is a pound of
Especially in
cure.
middle school, I mean, I saw some major cracks over there, and that's the one thing with last year's winter, I mean, everybody's
Yes.
blacktops got destroyed. I mean, that just was.
And then back to, what you were going to say, Tamara, it's like, have these people come by, and let's get some work.
Right, I think and I think we take,
Yeah, we got a lot of work
we
to do.
we'd take a look at it. We I know Andrew has some thoughts, so we probably bounce it at the finance committee a little bit. We have to talk about it here, and then we bring them back in and say that we'd like this refined or that refined, and
Yeah, I thought it was comprehensive. There was a whole lot of what I would call fluff, like ordinary stuff that
Right.
everybody seems to know, but, that's what you pay for. You pay for soup and nuts report.
Mhm.
I mean, it's good as long as it's tempered with the person that has all the, the history and experience with it. So.
right. And I honestly, is it something that staff could have done or these two could have done? A, probably. B, did they have time? And C, we didn't have these two guys here when
Right.
we authorized this either.
That's
You know what I mean? But and sometimes I think this gives them maybe a good starting point too to create the 5-year budget or capital, to create the 10-year capital.
I think they could be a little more thorough with what they did for you.
Because I think at the end of the day, we're in a hell of a better spot now than we were back in March.
Oh, yeah.
I was just trying to find the picture. I was telling Casey tonight, if you had met this crew that did this, I'm convinced they were a bunch of college interns.
Yeah.
I took a picture of Mike Miller's window of him sitting in the grass one night waiting for a ride or something. And I said to Mike, see these kids out here? And he said, yeah, who are they? I said, that's the reserve study crew. He said, you're kidding me. I said, yeah. When I met with them the first day, we were in the conference room. I don't think any of them were over 20 years old.
Well, I thought they
I
were.
thought it was a group of engineers.
I thought they
That's-
was.
that's
I
what
gotta
we
pull
thought,
that
too.
out and look at that because I think that's what we were told.
Yeah.
If they have, I don't,
EITs,
what
they
they-
were EITs.
Have they
weren't
called you
actual
for the remainder of the money yet, or?
not yet.
Okay, yeah.
What's the time frame to pay? I mean, I know, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't pay them, I'm just saying take your
No, we're
grand old
just saying it's hold their
time.
feet to the fire. So it's
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
from the process standpoint, you can't pay them until we accept the report, right?
Right.
That's right.
That's my,
Right.
until we.
So, I mean, at some point, you really have to give them some kind of direction. Either you give them
Yeah.
something to do, or we put it on the agenda to pay them.
Correct.
We can't keep it.
we can't do that forever. You want me to send her an email tomorrow and say, we'd like to have representation to
Well,
discuss it?
Well, did we have a finance committee meeting scheduled?
I went through,
Well,
I mean, it's
Wednesday,
kind of
the
mind
12th.
numbing
That's
after a
right.
while.
But
I mean, it's painful
Budget
to a point.
presentation,
But
preliminary budget.
it's the same
It's got,
repetitive info. I mean,
RFP.
the good thing is mechanically, your buildings are in pretty good shape. I mean,
Anything else?
the high school, I would say
Grand
not the
agenda.
annex part, but
A week from
the
Wednesday.
other part of the high
Yeah.
school.
All right.
It's kind
You
of
got
the
the
middle of
auditors
the
coming
new and
Monday
the
night.
annex, that middle area.
The B and C.
Is
At-
the
up
only area that really has any type of
Berkshire-
older
Berkshire.
equipment. Everything else
Oh,
is.
that's right. I
8 to
forgot
10
that
years
was-
old. So, I mean, it's.
When do we-
Mechanically, you guys are actually in pretty good shape. Now, that being said, in 4, 5, 6 years, you're gonna have a couple hundred compressors that are all aged at the same time.
Do we need the
That's-
24th?
You know,
That's
And
why.
Do we need the
that's
24th?
the part of it,
That's why.
you may end up
That's
having
when we're gonna
to
approve
hire
the
a
bond.
person who is an HVAC guy that can just go from unit to unit and change and swapping out compressors, because you're gonna have a lot of pieces of equipment aging at the same time. I mean, I'll use the middle school, for example, there's 69, 68 compressors for the class, just the classroom units. They're all gonna age at the same time. So,
Tell them about the translucent panels.
there's, you stand in the gym, center court, and the nets are behind you. You look left and right. There's cathedral ceilings there. There are these translucent wall panels that are up there. There's an aluminum frame and these panels stick between them. I was told that last winter there was snow coming in there because they separated at some point in time, and when the wind was blowing really good this winter and snowing really good, actually snow came in onto the gym floor.
Where is this?
Which would ruin
Middle school
the,
gym.
Middle school
which
gym.
would ruin the
Just
wood
a
floors.
brand new building, practically.
So
Gee.
I, of course, go to the submittal information that the contractor has to provide you as part of the construction of all the equipment that is in there. I open it up to windows and there's nothing there. So I ended up calling the contractor, Lobar, today, and their project manager got back to me and says, I'm pretty sure I know who did it, but why don't you look in your O&Ms? I said, because your O&Ms are incomplete and there's nothing in it. He goes, well, that's impossible. I said, well, I have 2 sets of them that are identical. I said, so I don't think somebody took the same information out of both sets of books. I'll make some phone calls. Thank you very much. You know, because I don't know if it's under warranty. I mean, and then I called Scott Alvin Glass to come out and look at it. They're not insured to go on the roof, but to access it, you have to come on the shingled roof. You have to walk around the gym more or less and come up that shingled roof. So their insurance does not have them insured. We don't have a lift that goes high enough to get them up to it from the inside.
Well, we have a bucket truck.
Yeah.
But I don't want to rent a lift for one day, spend $500 or $600 to get it delivered, rental, and picked up. So if I get the contractor in here to look at it under hopefully a warranty claim, if there is one, if not, they're going to have to fix it. But right now, there's 3 sections that have wind blowing in them. And you have constant fresh air coming into the gym, but
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
also called heat loss.
Yeah,
really.
really.
Infiltration.
Well, what I was wondering is, does it make sense to see if, we could, to see if maybe, like I said, I know Andrew has input. I don't know if anybody else from the finance committee would want input, but maybe we could meet, like do a joint meeting. I would say maybe before the 24th, the meeting on the 24th,
Well,
and kind of figure out a game plan for what we want to tell the reserve study people or bring
Yeah.
them back in.
it'd have to be the week of the 17th, because we've got Cal on the 10th, finance on the 12th, and we're up to the week of the 17th.
Oh, I meant like literally before the meeting, like at
Oh.
6 o'clock
Oh.
on the 24th, before the voting meeting.
Any other committee meetings?
I think policy maybe.
Yeah,
Oh, are you on policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Connor will typically schedule everything.
All right.
I don't know that he has.
We're into that crunch time of year.
I just- let
You
me
get to
s-
Thanksgiving, and then things just
Yeah.
kind of
I
slide
can
away
look on the
out from under you.
website and see
Yeah,
if there
I'll
has
say.
a.
It
Because you
does.
guys, someplace you ought to reorganize there in December, first
Well,
week.
I think it's on that Tuesday,
I don't even-
the first
Is
Tuesday.
first is a student holiday. Are you meeting on Tuesday the 2nd?
My understanding is we meet on the I can't because I work. I mean, I have that's my work meeting, but I think that's what they're doing. I don't know
As
why
long
we
as-
don't meet on the first because it's a holiday because we meet on on other holidays, but
Well, the first is the first day of deer season. That's why it's a holiday.
right. But like we met on Columbus Day, it was
This is the first day
it
of
was a
Bach.
holiday. All right,
You're in
so
Pennsylvania.
Berks County.
Yeah, in Berks County, yeah.
24th.
Just bought my license Saturday.
All right, so you won't
So
be
we
here. I
definitely
got it.
don't. Well, hopefully you could be back for the meeting, right?
Oh, I could be.
I was trying to
If
figure
you
out
get the
if-
right spot, you could be back by lunchtime.
I could be back before breakfast.
You could be bringing us venison.
I don't know I don't see a policy meeting on the.
Yeah, like I said.
Board
he may
yet,
not-
but-
Right, it's not on here yet.
You have a
He may
schedule. We
reply.
could beat him to it.
I was going to say, why don't I send out an email tomorrow and see, or tonight
Yeah,
and
do
see,
that.
and if not, maybe we could do that, and
Well,
then
you email me, and I'll email that 19-year-old engineer.
Stop, I don't want to hear that anymore. That's really going to piss me off.
yeah, I don't want to hear that at the moment either.
That'll just
It's the
make
same
my
way.
day.
Well, just think, you can't get an engineering degree at 19.
No, you can't.
Unless you're a phenom and graduated
Well, you-
at 16.
Yeah.
Well,
And then are you doing capital reserve studies for a living?
Right, exactly.
But
All they do.
But even then, you're not getting your PE at I mean, you might have an engineering degree,
I
but
always
it's
think
not
the
like.
worst, though. I mean, it's after this whole thing with this contract thing, with the,
I say, well, all right, and then it's okay. All right. So as far as December facilities, let's see if we can meet the 24th, and then and if not, then we'll try to put something together for December.
You'll email?
I will email him. Yeah, actually in just a minute. But I was going to wrap the meeting
I'll
up.
try to get them here at 6 o'clock.
Well, I don't. Do we want them here yet, or do we want to talk about
Or do we
it
want-
first?
Okay.
let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Monday.
So we'll
I
have a
think-
joint meeting,
Right.
finance or
Facilities, and I mean, whoever wants, if it's
Yeah.
advertised, whoever wants to come can come. But and then we can call them into another meeting. I think we
As long
should
as we-
kind of figure out what we want to do first.
as long as we don't
Yeah.
take any official action, if we're a quorum.
Correct, but we'll have a meeting afterwards if we wanted to take action. Okay, so we'll do that.